97.3 ESPN, home of the Philadelphia Eagles.
They've got them!
WENJ HD, Millville, Atlantic City. This is the Sports Bash with Mike Gill on 97.3 ESPN. Now, live inside the Matt Black Kia Studios, here's Mike Gill.
A Wednesday edition of the Sports Bash is live on 97.3 ESPN, the free mobile app, and of course, streaming video live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. What is going on, everybody? I'm your host, Mike Gill. Josh Henning is producing today's show, and you out there on a Wednesday edition. We've got so much to dive into, including some possible Eagles news with Zach Ertz. I got the details on that coming up here in just a little bit. Plus, the Sixers stuff will continue almost all summer long as they continue to kind of figure out what to do with Ben Simmons. Apparently, he is buying a pretty pricey mansion, not in this area, not in the Philadelphia region. Oh, he's buying a mansion. Oh, maybe it's in Stone Harbor or Avalon or Sea Isle, somewhere down the shore. Wrong. Maybe it's on the main line. Try again. Haddonfield, Morristown. Not the case. It's in California, by the way. Also, Phil's win last night, but the same recipe. They held on to win, but we're up 4-0. Almost blew that game. I'm trying to find the good in last night. Well, they won. Vince Velasquez was part of the good. Reese Hoskins actually had a home run last night. Gave him a 4-0 lead. Somebody else hit a dinger last night for the Fightins. But we'll try to figure out what we can do to fix this organization. Kevin Cooney will join me at 3:20 today. Kevin is never short on giving strong opinions, and you will hear those strong opinions coming up today with Kevin at 3:20. He wrote a great piece for Philly Voice, covers the Phillies, longtime Phillies writer for a variety of outlets that he will contribute to the show today. I always appreciate Kevin jumping on. Looking forward to that. Also, Jay Fitz is scheduled to join us at 3, McGarry as well. But I want to start with the Eagles stuff here, where this Zach Ertz possible trade that we keep hearing about for a long, long time. We've heard about it for a long, long time. Could it be ready to materialize? Is it ready to almost happen? You know, the fact of the matter is this. There are teams that have interest. We know that going back to June 1st when Jeremy Fowler reported that at least 3 teams were interested in trading for Zach Ertz. Fowler said that trade talks had picked up with the Eagles during the first week of June. Other people have suggested, I mean, you go back into, we're going back to May now, that Zach Ertz, who did not report to offseason workouts. There were other reports out there that there's nothing to report on the Eagles and the Bills. We've heard that back in March, the Eagles have given Zach Ertz permission to pursue a trade. We heard back in March that the Eagles were not in a rush to trade Zach Ertz. We heard back in March that the Eagles wanted a 3rd or 4th round pick for Zach Ertz. We heard Mike Silver report back on March 7th that multiple teams have called about the Eagles, about Zach Ertz. We heard way back, going back to February, that something was imminent on a deal with Zach Ertz. So, is something going to happen with Zach Ertz today? Well, it could be happening. I'm not saying it is going to happen, but apparently the voice of the Eagles, Merrill Reese, appeared on a football, Merrill Reese appeared on the National Football Show and said, quote, "The word today is that they are very close to a deal, and I don't have any inside information to substantiate this, but the word is that they're close to a deal with Buffalo for Zach Ertz. Quote, I believe you, Reese said to the host, Dan Cilio, have as much chance of being on this roster as Zach Ertz in the next few weeks. He went on to say that Buffalo, by name, is the team that he thinks a deal is going to happen with. So, how do we feel about the possibility of Zach Ertz getting traded to Buffalo? I'm sure at this point right now, everybody is kind of at the, we get to this thing in sports. We get to a pinnacle of sports where we're just tired of the old guys. We all fall victim of this. We're just ready to move on from the old guys. We want the new guys. The world we live in today, in the sports world and in life, it's, I want something different. I want something new. I'm ready to change. I'm ready to move on. Nothing is forever. We know that. Zach Ertz doesn't have to be forever. But it's almost like people are just ready to give up on Zach Ertz because they want a shiny new toy. The realization that Zach Ertz is going to at some point no longer be here, we're ready to push that to the top of the list of things we want done now. Get him out of town now. Trade him now. Get what you can for him now. And I'm not saying if you keep him, you can get something better. A NFL football player is like a car. When you buy a new car, the second you drive off the lot, that car devalues in price right off the bat. You're not buying a brand new car. Hey, I got my car for $26,800 off the lot. You turn out of that lot and make a right-hand turn, you're already down to $25,000. You make a left on the next street, $24,000. You make a right on the next street, $23,000. The value of that car immediately starts to decrease. That's an NFL football player. Zach Ertz, at one point, he was the shiny brand new car that you drove off the lot and said, man, I got this new car and I'm never getting rid of this thing. I love my car. And then all of a sudden, oh man, the new screen is so much bigger on these new cars. They've got all these features. Ooh, they got not only heated seats, but they got air-conditioned seats. Zach Ertz doesn't have air-conditioned. He has heated seats. He doesn't have air-conditioned seats. We all believe that Dallas Goedert is the guy that has the air-conditioned seats. Zach Ertz only has heated seats. Dallas Goedert has them both. Why? Because he's newer. He's younger. But make no mistake about it. If the Eagles just give Zach Ertz away, you're giving up on a guy who can still play. You're giving up on a guy in his Eagles career, has 561 catches, 6,000 plus yards, and 36 touchdowns. 3-time Pro Bowler, first-team All-Pro. Did he have injury issues last year? Yes, he did. Was he forever injured? Is he perpetually injured? No. No, he's not. Zach Ertz has been a guy who has played 16 games, 15 games, 14, 16, 15. Last year, 11. He has played. He has appeared. What's the best ability? It's availability. Who has given it to you? It's been Zach Ertz. So why I'm not saying it's not a smart move to trade Zach Ertz. Contractually, it is. $7.75 million. You have a guy in Dallas Goedert that I like a lot. There is really no need to say, well, can Zach Ertz be the player? I should say. There's no need to think that, can you say Zach Ertz is the player that he was in the previous 7 seasons that he played with the Philadelphia Eagles? Of course not. I mean, Zach Ertz went from 1,100 yards to 900 yards to 335 yards. It's a pretty precipitous drop. But is that the standard that he is now becoming? I don't think so. Look, do I think the Eagles are going to win a Super Bowl? Of course not. Do I think the Eagles can win this division? Sure. Do I think they're the favorites to win this division? No, I don't. Is trading Zach Ertz the smartest thing for this team? I don't know if it's the smartest. It probably makes more sense than keeping him. But I will say this. The actions of the Eagles suggest they think they have a shot. And in 2017, nobody thought they had a shot. And they put together a roster similar to the roster they're putting together now. Young quarterback, very unproven. Yes, he was the second pick in the draft. This quarterback's a second-round pick. So you have obviously had a lot more hope in that quarterback. But the rest of the makeup of this team is very similar to that team in 2017. Heck, Lane Johnson was on that team. Brandon Brooks was on that team. Jason Kelsey was on that team. Isaac Seumalo was on that team. Those guys remain. On that team, you had a guy named LeGarrette Blount. You now have Kerryon Johnson. On that team, you had Alshon Jeffrey. I'm not sure who's replacing him. They hope it's Travis Fulgham. They hope it's J.J. Arcega-Whiteside. They hope it's Devonta Smith. On that team, you had Torrey Smith. Well, I don't know who's Torrey Smith on this particular team. They hope it's Jalen Reagor. But there's a lot of ifs and ands and hopes, but the parallels are certainly there. They went out on the defensive side of the ball. They brought in a veteran player like Anthony Harris. Last year, they tried to say, hey, let's throw a corner at safety because he's a leader. Let's see how that works. Well, it didn't work out too well. Jalen Mills played safety. They had to move him back to corner, and here we are. Brandon Graham was on that team. Fletcher Cox was on that team. There are a lot of similarities to this roster and that roster. There's a lot of similarities to this offseason and that offseason. There's also a lot of similarities in the lack of expectations in this offseason and the lack of expectations in that offseason. Is Mike Gill on the radio suggesting the Eagles are about to be the surprise team to win the Super Bowl? No, he's not. But what I am suggesting is that trading Zach Ertz just to trade Zach Ertz might be something that the Eagles aren't ready to do. And maybe that's why they haven't traded him yet. Despite plenty of rumors about these being the final days of Ertz in Philadelphia, the Eagles have still not made a move. They haven't got what they're looking for yet. You know why? Because they're not ready to just hand him over for nothing. Now, by the end of this day, maybe the Buffalo Bills and the Philadelphia Eagles consummate a trade, and it's for a 5th-round pick or a 6th-round pick, and that the Philadelphia Eagles finally go and say, we tried. This is the best we could get, and we're ready to move on. I wouldn't be surprised, but people ask me a lot, hey, why haven't they done anything with Ertz yet? When are they going to do something with Ertz? And my answer is surprising to them a lot. I'm not sure they definitively want to trade Zach Ertz. I think Ertz has made it clear he doesn't want to be here under the current situation. I think he is pretty clear that he doesn't want to play on a 1-year deal. The Eagles aren't going to part with him for nothing in return. I believe that. I don't know that that's going to end up happening, but it was described that interested trade partners, teams like Buffalo that need a tight end, Arizona, Jacksonville, Cincinnati, some of these teams back then, that they were getting asked for too much. The Eagles didn't want to just trade them. And now here we are, less than 1 month away from Eagles training camp, and Zach Ertz remains. So we'll keep our eyes on it throughout the day. Jeff Mosher will join me at 4 o'clock today for today's football at 4, and I'm interested to hear from him. You know, when Merrill Reese says something, it's kind of interesting. Merrill Reese works for the radio broadcast. He is the voice of the team on 97.3 ESPN radio. He is the guy who people in this area certainly respect. So when he says, quote, the word today is that they are very close to a deal, and I don't have any inside information to substantiate this, but the word is they're close to a deal with Buffalo for Zach Ertz. Excuse me? They're close to a deal with Buffalo for Zach Ertz. Buffalo tight end, by the way, Dawson Knox also commented on this, right? Dawson Knox commented on the whole situation because Zach Ertz was at Tight End University, which is like a retreat for players that are play the position that can work together. And Dawson Knox said, I think no matter who they bring in, it just elevates everyone's level of play. No matter who they bring in, whether it's a rookie or an all-pro like Zach, I think it'll be just great to elevate competition. Iron sharpens iron. Does Knox have information that we don't have? Is he well aware that, hey, my spot on the depth chart might be ready to take a little bit of a dip? I think there's a handful of teams that could trade for Zach Ertz. If Zach Ertz goes to Buffalo, he becomes their top tight end. Buffalo is playing for what? Many people believe the Buffalo Bills can win a Super Bowl this year. So a team that thinks they can win a Super Bowl is going after a guy that you're just ready to give away? Of course not. That's why I think the Eagles need to play a little hardball here. Hey, Buffalo, you have a chance to win a Super Bowl. I have a guy that can help make that happen. You can keep Dawson Knox if you'd like, who's a nice player. 24 catches, 288 yards, but he's certainly not Zach Ertz. In 2 seasons, Dawson Knox has 52 catches for 676 yards. Zach Ertz typically does that in 1 season. Dawson Knox, in his 2 seasons, has only combined to be better than 2 of Zach Ertz seasons, his rookie year and 2020. Every other 1 season of Zach Ertz has been better than both of Dawson Knox seasons combined. So if you're Buffalo, if I'm Philadelphia and I'm Howie Roseman, I say, hey, I know you guys are being picked by everybody to win that AFC East. I know everybody is picking you to win the AFC East, and I know everybody thinks you can win a Super Bowl. You were right there last year. You got the quarterback. You have a great weapon at wide receiver. But, man, wouldn't Zach Ertz look great on your team? Wouldn't Zach Ertz catching the ball at the 10-yard line and diving forward from the 5, stretching out as far as he can go across the goal line, scoring the game-winning touchdown in the Super Bowl look good on your highlight reel? You're damn right it would. So don't give me an insulting 6th-round pick. I need something a little better than that. I need something a little better than what you're offering. Otherwise, I'll just keep them myself. 609-403-0973. Jersey P's watching on YouTube says, sometimes you could buy a car and fix it, then sell it. You can, Jersey P, but you're not getting the same value that you got when you bought the car. If I spent $26,000 10 years later or 7 years later, in Zach Ertz's case, you're not getting $26,000 for it now. Whether you fix it, shine it, turn it up sideways, and shove it up your candy ass, you're not getting that same price. An homage to The Rock. You can fix and sell that car. It might go from you getting $6,000 to $8,000. Brian checks in. He's watching the show on YouTube. What's up, Brian? He says, I don't think anyone in the fan base wants Zach Ertz gone. The Eagles can't afford him for the asking price, or so it was reported. The Eagles can afford him. They've already cleared out the cap space. They're under the cap. They can go into this season with Zach Ertz. It's not about that anymore. This was back in March when they needed to get under the cap. That Zach Ertz contract was a big part of that. But if you notice, Brian, he wasn't one of the guys they parted with to get under the cap. They approached others and said, can you help me out? Can you renegotiate your contract? Because part of their mindset, I think, was we don't want to give up Zach Ertz if we don't have to. We'll give up Zach Ertz for the right price, but we're not just giving him away. Now, I could be wrong if a deal gets reported by the end of the day or the end of the week, and they get a 6th-round pick. I think getting a 5th or 6th-round pick would be somewhat disappointing, and that might be all they can get. And maybe the Eagles have played the staring game as long as they can, and their eyes are just starting to get tired. You've played the staring game before. Sometimes you just have to blink. Somebody here might have to blink, and it might have to be Howie Roseman. But I'll tell you what, if I'm talking to the Bills, you can have Dawson Knox. I got Zach Ertz. Right? You could keep Dawson Knox. He has 200-plus yards last year. It's kind of cute. I'll keep Zach Ertz. You want to try to win a championship with Dawson Knox? Thumbs up. Have fun with that. I'll keep Zach Ertz. I think that the Eagles should play hardball with the Buffalo Bills. You know, the Buffalo Bills are in position to win a Super Bowl here. Sometimes there's desperate times when your Super Bowl window is open and yet you're still a little limited. That's why it's perfect that the Bills are one of the teams that are interested in your guy. I'm Mike Gill. This is the Sports Bash live on 97.3 ESPN, the free mobile app. I look forward to Kevin Cooney today. It's 1 hour from now. Set an appointment for that. Sports Bash is brought to you by Matt Blatt Kia. They want to get you approved today. Matt Blatt, 6211 Black Horse Pike, Egg Harbor Township. Coming up, Mike McGarry in 20 minutes. Stick around. Sports Bash also will be checking in on the Eagles during football at 4 with Jeff Mosher. And I said yesterday I need your help with something. I will ask that today because I'm going to have a little fun with you guys with that. I didn't have enough time yesterday, and I had some other things I wanted to get into. The NBA playoffs have turned into a disaster for the league. And the Sixers have to be kicking themselves now. This is the Sports Bash live on 97.3 ESPN, the free mobile app. So I will read off your texts and your video stuff if you are so inclined to send. The numbers for you to do it, 609-403-0973, 609-403-0973. You can jump on board that way on the text board. You can, of course, always give us a buzz, 609-573-3776, 609-573-ESPN, text board 609-403-0973. If you're watching the show live, the video stream is always open for you guys. Over on the text board, let's dive into some of these. Mike, Zach Ertz in a fourth for Stephon Gilmore. Yeah, I'd do that. I mean, you get Gilmore back in return. He doesn't want to be there. They got issues there. You're giving them a fourth. Probably have to do that to sweeten the package. Something similar to the deal you made with Jordan Matthews and a pick for Ronald Darby a couple of years ago to get a corner. I don't think the Patriots would do this deal. They signed 2 tight ends in the offseason. Do they have space for another on the roster? Probably not. 609-403-0973. Some more text messages coming in. Mike, I bleed green, but I have a feeling the Eagles are going to be bottom 5 in the league with the combination of players past their prime and youth that have a lot of questions. Coaching staff is incredibly young. This isn't Madden. This is the NFL. On that note, Dan, NEHT, thank you for your text as always. Let's see here. I have the odds for worst team in the league. Worst regular season record, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The Eagles are tied for 5th worst odds. So, in other words, if you bet Houston plus 175, they have the best odds to be the worst team in the league. Detroit plus 300. They have the 2nd best odds to be the worst team in the league. New York Jets plus 700. The Cincinnati Bengals plus 1,000. And then Philadelphia and Jacksonville are next at plus 1,200 to have the worst regular season record in football. So, Dan, Vegas thinks you are correct. Now, I will give you this caveat. Last year, Vegas thought Philadelphia would win 10 games. So they went from a team that people thought could win 10 games, and now people think they could be one of the worst teams in football. Why were they so bad last year? Were they so bad because their roster was so bad, or were they so bad because of injury issues? I'll leave that one up to you guys out there. 609-403-0973 over on the text board. More text messages are coming in. Hey, Mike, I don't understand how Ertz isn't worth a 3rd or 4th round pick. He's a leader, proven player, Super Bowl champion, clutch player. He's only 31. Look at Tony Gonzalez and what he brought to Atlanta. Well, there's a lot there. All right, why isn't he worth a 3rd or 4th round pick? The age, the wear and tear. And it doesn't help that his 2020 season was what it was. If Zach Ertz was coming off of a Pro Bowl season, then yeah, that's a different story. But the age coupled with the season that he had last year and the money that he makes, that's another big problem. He makes such a significant amount of money that it is hard for a team to justify it. You want us to pay that money for a player who's over 30, only on a 1-year deal, and had 36 catches for 335 yards and 1 touchdown last year? Why am I giving you future assets? I'll give you future crapshoots, but I'm not going to give you future asset. See, a 3rd-round pick to a front office is an asset. A 6th-round pick is a crapshoot. You're giving me an older player who played poorly last year and missed multiple games due to injury. Now you want me to take on that with that salary, and you want me to pay that salary, and you want me to give you something of value? That doesn't mean that he can't play or that he can't be an asset. Tony Gonzalez, as you mentioned, he went to Atlanta when he was 33 years old. Now, he was never the same player in Atlanta that he was in Kansas City. His best season in Atlanta was 930 yards, 8 touchdowns, which is pretty darn good. But it's not close to the 1,200 yards that he put up when he was with Kansas City, the 1,100 yards, the 1,000 yards, put up 2 1,200-yard seasons. But at 33 years old, when he went to Atlanta, he still played for 4 more years. Actually, 5 more. He played 5 seasons in Atlanta. So you're absolutely right. It doesn't mean, and this is what the Eagles have to believe as well. They have to believe that, hey, our guy still has something left in the tank. Look at what Tony Gonzalez did. And you can make a good argument that Zach Ertz, I don't want to say is better than Tony Gonzalez, but that he is a Pro Bowl level tight end. And at 30 years old, I think he's 30. I think he'll be 31 in November. So somewhere in the middle of the season, he'll turn 31. But your text message is valid. But the problem is his age coupled with the fact that he had a bad season. When Tony Gonzalez went to Atlanta, they signed him as a free agent. Keep that in mind. It wasn't a trade. He was coming off a season in Kansas City where he had 96 catches for 1,058 yards and 10 touchdowns. Not close to what Zach Ertz did last year. So he had a resume already, plus he was coming off of a big season. At 32 years old, he had 1,000 yards and 10 touchdowns and 96 catches, which, by the way, is the 3rd most catches he ever had in a season. His 2 best seasons came at 28, 31, and 32 years old. They were his best seasons in the league. So, yeah, Zach Ertz could certainly come back into the league, come back to the Eagles, and have one of those big years. I think the problem is the offense the Eagles will have with Dallas Goedert, Devonta Smith, Jalen Reagor, Miles Sanders. I don't know if there's room for someone to be the one that has that 1,000-yard tight end season, whether it be Dallas Goedert or Zach Ertz. 609-403-0973. 609-403-0973. Mike, would Ertz really want to play for the Eagles knowing they're actively trying to trade him? Well, he asked for the trade. The two sides basically came to an agreement that he can go try to find a trade. He hasn't found any takers. The reason the trade has come up is because the Eagles don't want to renew his contract. So, no, Ertz does not want to really be here. We had Rob Motti on from the Associated Press about a month ago, and, you know, he said that he doesn't see any scenario in which Zach Ertz would be back with the Eagles. You know, he basically said, yeah, I don't see that happening. It doesn't mean it can't happen. And this is what Rob Motti said about this not too long ago here on the Sports Bash Live on 97.3 ESPN. This was Rob Motti from the Associated Press.
Where they're at right now, the Eagles have clearly drawn a line, Mike, where we're going to do what's in the best interest of the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, there's nothing wrong with that. You don't have to be critical of a team wanting to do what's in the best interest of the team. But we've seen situations in the past where they released Malcolm Jenkins. They released Deshaun Jackson several years ago. The Houston Texans released J.J. Watt. The Eagles could have released Zach Ertz, but instead they wanted a premium pick. They wanted a 3rd-round pick.
So they wanted the premium pick, as he said. They wanted a 3rd-round pick. They're not getting that. They're not getting that. And as Rob Motti suggested, that teams are not giving up a premium pick to get Zach Ertz. That's the problem.
Teams are very aware of the situation. They know that this relationship has deteriorated to a point where there's going to be a divorce. We just don't know when. So more teams are more likely, if they want Zach Ertz, rather than trade for him, nobody's giving up a 3rd-round pick. And clearly nobody wanted to give up even a day 3 pick this past draft. So the Eagles are going to be left in a situation where you either take whatever teams give you or you just part ways with Zach after June 1st, which will help the salary cap situation a little bit.
If they do it after June 1st, which obviously is already eclipsed, they will get $7 million plus of salary, which means they could probably go out and make a better offer for one of those corners. So if they do that, the juice is probably worth the squeeze. 609-403-0973. 609-403-0973. I'm Mike Gill. This is the Sports Bash. My friend Mike McGarry from the Press of Atlantic City. He's going to join us on the other side as well. You will ask him about the Ertz thing. We'll talk to some Phillies. We'll get into some Sixers offseason stuff. Plus, I also want to get his take on a couple other things that are out there. Mike, always good to mix it up on a Wednesday. That is coming up next right here on the Sports Bash Live on 97.3 ESPN, the free mobile app. right, 241 on the Sports Bash live on 97.3 ESPN. Mike McGarry from the Press of Atlantic City. Don't forget his must-win column appears Fridays in the Press of AC. And he joins me now, on the Sports Bash live on 97.3 ESPN. So much to chop up, mix down here with Mike. We've been having a lot of fun doing this, and hopefully Mike is. I don't know. Maybe he's not having fun doing it. I appreciate him, and I appreciate the conversation. There's so much I want to kind of dive into here, Mike. First off, all right, it's not a secret, I think, for most people that you are a New York sports fan generally, correct?
Correct.
All right, so here in Philly, as you know, because you cover the area and the teams, the play-by-play broadcasters seem to be such a fabric of the team.
Right.
Is that the same way in New York? Are they looked at as the same type of connection, like Mark Zumoff, Sixers, Merrill Reese, Eagles, Harry Kalas, Phillies? Is it, even like the radio guys, have that same type of connection, but is it the same way with the New York teams?
I absolutely. I think depending on the team, though, you get more of a taste of that. Like Knicks, Mike Breen. Before that, it was Marv Albert. Those guys were connected with the Knicks, maybe even more than some of the players. I think as when it comes to baseball, it's the best home announcing team in baseball is the Mets. Gary Cohen, Keith Hernandez, and Ron Darling. They're sometimes worth tuning into to hear them rather than the game. Over the years, you've had, Phil Rizzuto with the Yankees. You've got John Sterling and Susan Waldman. Baseball's a crazy game, John, with the Yankees on the radio for years. Football, not so much. I think Bob Papa does the Giants, and obviously, but I wouldn't put him on the level of connection of the team as I would with Merrill Reese. And, some of the hockey teams and the newer the newer announcers for the basketball teams on the radio, I don't think they have the connection of some of the Phillies guys here. But I would definitely say in baseball and in the case of the Knicks, definitely.
Yeah, you bet. Does Breen still do the TV?
Yeah, he does. He does the games with with Walt Frazier. He does probably about, I'd say more than half the games. Obviously, when he's not doing ESPN or something. And on the other side of the thing, you get Ian Eagle does the same deal with the Brooklyn Nets game. So you really have top, maybe the two best basketball announcers doing home games for the New York teams.
I didn't realize Breen still did the Knicks games when he's not doing the national stuff. Who does it when he's not doing the games?
Right. I'm not sure. Maybe Kenny Albert, Marv's son. Yep. Not 100% sure, but I think it's Kenny Albert. But it definitely is Mike Breen, and he's on there more often than not. He's doing the Knicks games when he's not doing an ESPN game.
I'll tell you, it was pretty shocking to read that yesterday. Like Zumoff, to me, had plenty left. Like Marv, okay, he's 80.
Marv's 80, correct.
But you could tell he's been slowing down in the last couple of years.
Right.
Zumoff is still at the top of his game. I was pretty shocked to see that.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, Mark, if you listen to him, he's still, he still has his fastball. I mean, he still keeps up with the action. He's still, is just a great announcer. Still on top of it, on top of his game. In reading his statement, I guess he's about 66, 67, right? He said he just wanted to go away and do other things while he still could, and more power to him. But whoever's going to take that job is definitely stepping into some big shoes there for the Sixers.
I think I know somebody. Mike McGarry at AC Press McGarry. All right, I want to get a couple things. First off, it's been, you watch these NBA playoffs now with the injuries that are going on with Giannis might be done. Trae Young couldn't play last night. The Sixers have got to be kicking themselves. So in the time that has passed, have any of these Ben Simmons possible deals stood out to you as, if that deal's on the table, you got to take it? Or are you at the point where if anything's on the table, you have to consider it?
I'm not taking anything that comes down, but I think you've got to pursue something. And then I think if you pursue something, you're going to get something good for him. I'm not in the camp that says his trade value is at an all-time low. I think for a couple of reasons, teams are going to want him. Number one, he's a former overall number one draft pick. Teams just do not have a shot at that type of talent on a normal basis. So if they say, okay, we've got a chance to get a guy who was the number one overall draft pick, I'm interested, okay? Number two is all teams and all coaches think, well, we'll fix him. Whatever is bothering him in Philadelphia, we'll fix him here in this city because we're smarter than the guys in Philadelphia. That's just the way every coach is on all level, from youth basketball through high school, through college, through the NBA thing. And three, I think you look at his defense and his ability in transition. I think those are, character or qualities that can be on a successful NBA team. I think he can, why can't he do for a team what Draymond Green does for the Golden State Warriors? Now, of course, Draymond Green is surrounded by some of the greatest shooters of all time. Not saying Ben Simmons is going to fall into that situation, but he has a skill set that works in the NBA. To me, you got to call Portland and say, hey, Damian Lillard wants out. Supposedly, we've got Ben Simmons here. It's a good starting point. What can we do to make this work? I'm not that high on the CJ McCollum deal, but, I like, now that the Damian Lillard rumors are out there, I think if you're Philly, you got to pick up the phone and call the Portland Trailblazers and ask about Damian Lillard.
Yeah, there's been all sorts, Minnesota apparently wants him badly. There's other teams that have interest in him. You're starting to hear like Colin Sexton's name, that the Cavs are ready to move on from him. So it appears that Daryl Morey is going to have some options. And Mike, I guess we all know, if anything, Morey will be on the phone.
Yeah, he's a guy who is remember a couple of years ago, I think Brett Brown, I forget what the exact quote was, but he said something like, we're going star hunting in the offseason or something like that, something to that effect. And then the Sixers didn't do anything and everybody was disappointed. Daryl Morey is a guy in his history. He goes star hunting. He gets stars to come in there. James Harden, Russell Westbrook, Chris Paul. He makes deals for stars. So he's a guy who goes star hunting, and more often than not, he doesn't come back empty-handed. I don't like to trade to Minnesota. D'Angelo, what are you going to get back? D'Angelo Russell? I mean, that doesn't excite me. Look, I'm not a Ben Simmons guy by any stretch of the imagination. I'm probably in the anti-Ben Simmons camp, but I'm not trading Ben Simmons for D'Angelo Russell. You're going to have to do a little bit better than that for me.
I'm glad you said that, because a lot of people because to me, I asked the question a lot this week, Mike. If you trade Ben Simmons for D'Angelo, are you better or just different?
You're probably different. I think you're maybe a little better, but you're not a team that's going to the win an NBA championship with D'Angelo Russell. He's not putting you on that next level, basically. No. I mean, he's got his own full flaws as it is. So, yeah, and this is coming from a guy who, again, I'm not pro Ben Simmons. I think he has a lot to work on, but he's better than D'Angelo Russell, and I'm certainly not trading him for a guy like that, or a guy like CJ McCollum. I think Ben Simmons. Now, I think you might have to package some of your draft picks, which I have no problem doing. Like, I have no problem in giving Ben Simmons and as many draft picks as Portland wants for Damian Lillard.
Yeah, you're picking 28th this year.
Right. You're not getting anything out of that, basically.
No, I agree. The CJ McCollum, same thing. I'm not better. I'm just different. I'm now a team that can score a lot, but I'm going to give up a lot. McCollum couldn't defend you, McGarry.
Right. I'm still pretty quick in my defense, but
I heard you were good off the bounce, though. I heard you were good.
Exactly. It's more of a standstill shooter. I think I still think Ben Simmons is I mean, you're talking about a guy who's an all-star, a guy who's a candidate for all defensive player of the year, all defense. He has big-time flaws, but to me, his upside is better than a CJ McCollum or D'Angelo Russell. Again, maybe I'm shooting too high, but I think you got to shoot for a Damian Lillard type of guy to bring in here, that type of guy.
Well, I think that's where Morey would be. I'm not just trading him to trade him, but if you blow my socks off and I get an upgrade, fine. Better possibility, they would move Simmons or Harris?
Simmons, because Harris's contract is so, I think, prohibitive. No team, and what Tobias Harris does, he had a great season, had some solid games in the playoffs, fell off a little bit towards the end. But what Tobias Harris does 20 guys, 30 guys in the NBA do. I think there was a record number of guys this year that scored more than 20 points a game. I forget what the number was in a certain amount of years, but he had a ton of guys go over 20 points a game. At his contract, you know, he's a guy a lot of teams have, so I don't see a big market for him at all, where, you know, I think teams would be intrigued by the possibility of Ben Simmons. You put Ben Simmons on the floor, and I can't believe I'm in the position of defending Ben Simmons.
I love it. I forced you to do this. I love it.
Exactly. But you put Ben Simmons on the floor at the center position with a good point guard where he can still grab a rebound and go lead a fast break. But in the closing minutes of a game, he doesn't have to get you into your offense. You put him on the floor with that and 3 other shooters. I think you got a pretty good team. Case in point, the 2018 Sixers that won 20 in a row basically with that lineup, with Embiid out at the end of the regular season. And I don't think Ben Simmons has ever played better than that 2018 season.
Hey, I think if the Sixers and Ben Simmons could sit down and watch Milwaukee with Giannis when he scores 30 and then says, hey, Middleton, you take over. If they can find Middleton, a guy who in the fourth can take over that portion of the game, that could be another recipe. The question is, how do you get that guy? I think they thought that guy was Harris, and maybe they found out it wasn't.
Yeah, the other question I have, and the reason I don't think it works with the Sixers is just the Simmons-Embiid combination. They just don't fit. So even if you have that guy, what are you doing with Simmons? You're putting him in the dunker spot by the basket, where if you watch the Atlanta series, his guy could play a one-man zone in the lane, and if Embiid gets the ball in the post, he can take one step and be there for a double team. So I just think it's more of a factor of Simmons not gelling or complementing Embiid. Just their styles of play just do not work.
All right, Mike McGarry, of course, covers the local high school scene too. Give us the significance of Chase Petty winning this New Jersey Player of the Year award. Just how big of an announcement was that the other day?
Big deal. The Gatorade Player of the Year announced yesterday goes to the mainland regional pitcher, Chase Petty. Easy to explain the significance. The last local player to win this award, Mike Trout, in 2009. Last time I checked, Mike Trout was pretty good, right? So big time award for Chase Petty, and probably the first of kind of multiple honors rolling in for the mainland pitcher who, on July 11th, projected as a high major league draft choice. So big time honor for Chase, who really had a great season. And like I said, all you need to know is who is the last guy to win this award? Mike Trout. That explains to you how big it is right there.
And you can read more about that at the Press of Atlantic City. Chase Petty from Mainland is the Gatorade New Jersey Player of the Year for the entire state of New Jersey. So congratulations to him, as Mike mentioned. And then Friday, he'll be back. His must-win column appears in Friday's edition of the Press of Atlantic City. All right, that was quick. Thanks, man.
All right, we'll see you down the road. Thanks.
All right, Mike McGarry here on the Sports Bash Live on 97.3 ESPN. I had a whole nother layer of stuff I wanted to get into. Like, if Mike McGarry is running the Phillies, what is the first move you have to make to fix this team? We will get into that with Kevin Cooney at 3:20 today. You don't want to miss it. Kevin Cooney from PhillyVoice.com, who covers the Phillies, longtime Phillies and MLB writer, will join us here on the Sports Bash. I am Mike Gill. These NBA playoffs have been kind of clunky. Is it good? Is it bad? A new team? Asterisks? All that and more coming up on the Sports Bash Live on 97.3 ESPN, the free mobile app. And don't forget, you can watch the show live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. Search 973 ESPN.
A Town Square media station serving all of South Jersey. This is 97.3 ESPN, home of the Philadelphia 76ers.
Simmons pokes it away, steals it, sidesteps him and jams a two-hand throwdown.
WENJ HD Millville, Atlantic City. This is the Sports Bash with Mike Gill on 97.3 ESPN. Now, live inside the Matt Black Kia Studios, here's Mike Gill.
All right, hour 2 of the show, we are jamming as we look forward to, I don't know that I'm looking forward to any more NBA playoffs. The fact that Giannis might not play and Trae Young is out, it makes me sick to my stomach to know that the Sixers could have been in this situation. Now, over at ESPN.com, they have laid out a couple of different deals involving Ben Simmons. My friend Jason Fitz is the host of, or the co-host of Spain and Fitz. He doesn't do it by himself. Now, I did listen to a podcast the other day, and your name was brought up. I'll have to fill you in on that. What did I go with today? Oh, Stockton. That's the local college here in this area. But I kept my tradition of wearing the college T-shirt for the Jay Fitz segment here on the show. What's going on, man?
Man, I love this tradition. We got to make this a thing. I got to figure out, like, I'll build my own collection, and we'll go head-to-head with random college T-shirts. I'm all in for this.
Yeah, this is like the local Division III Stockton Ospreys is what they're called here. There's a campus right in Atlantic City. They have a dorm on the beach. Can you imagine that?
Wow, no, that is a bad. I think back to my dorm life age, that would have been a terrible idea. Would not have gotten anything done. So, but I love the combine.
Can you imagine going to college? Your dorm's on the beach, and the casino strip is right there.
I mean, I can imagine it for about a month, and then years ago in my life, when I was young, I was offered a gig to go out and play one of those Cirque du Soleil shows out in Vegas. And I looked at it as a violinist, and I was like, no, there's no way, because like I'll spend more than I'll make every single week, and I'll end up in rehab. So, just got to be self-aware. Self-aware.
What do you got? Teen Wolf wearing a Lakers uniform?
I got Teen Wolf wearing the old Teen Wolf. That was his old Beavers.
So, yeah.
Yeah, vintage-ish, expensive enough to look like it's vintage. Like, I don't know what happened. Like, we spend more for T-shirts now that look like they've been washed 5,000 times. It's a sin.
Yeah, I know. I know the feeling there. Now, I went to the campus bookstore. This thing cost me like $38 for a T-shirt because it happens to have a Nike swoosh on it.
When did we become a $30 T-shirt society? By the way, because that is in my mind. Like, that's when I stop and I'm like, I don't know. And now, like, all T-shirts feel like it bothers me.
$28 for this T-shirt. Jason Fitz. All right, here we go. Ben Simmons' name is coming up in everything. I mean, he's going to Golden State. Minnesota wants him badly. We thought he wasn't going to have any value. Apparently, he has more value than we thought. Your friends over at ESPN.com, these NBA insiders put together a couple of trades. So I'll throw them your way, and you can chew on this. Ben Simmons to Cleveland, Colin Sexton, Kevin Love, top 10 protected first-round pick. If you're Daryl Morey, do you say, I do it?
Oh, it makes you okay for right now. Like, what that trade does is it prevents you from bottoming out. So maybe you can convince Embiid that, like, hey, don't worry, we're not going to bottom out. We'll at least be competitive, and we'll be fighting for, a 4 or 5 seed, and that feels okay. So, I like the fact that it doesn't bottom you out, but I don't love much about it. And the draft pick portion of it, like, only makes sense to me if we're going to admit that there's a massive reset coming, because other than that, it's a total crapshoot. Like, part of the reason this year's playoffs are amazing is because 2018 doesn't usually, that's not a normal NBA draft. So it's okay. It's good, not great.
Sexton's interesting. He could shoot a little, 39 from 3, 24 points a game. I mean, he certainly changes the dynamic of that team. Kevin Love, I don't know. Does he have anything left in the tank to give you? Yeah, that one's interesting. The other one, now let me scroll all the way down to the bottom of this. They put 6 trade proposals. This one's really interesting because Russell Westbrook and a number 15 pick to Philly, Ben Simmons and George Hill go to Washington. Russell Westbrook and Joel Embiid don't seem to get along very well. Can you imagine those two on the same team? And does Russell Westbrook answer the questions of what the Sixers team is lacking?
No, here's what Russell Westbrook does is it makes you incredibly relevant, right? Like, we're going to watch these games and the game's going to be on and everybody's going to talk about it. So it makes you a conversation piece. He doesn't make you better like we talked last week. None of these trades are going to make you better than Brooklyn or, frankly, even Milwaukee. So you got to look at it and say, what does it return? It's the personality rub that I really dislike about this, because this is your shot to basically sit down and have, like, you pull out the guitar at the campfire, you sing Kumbaya, and you let Embiid just do whatever he wants to do. You got to make him feel heard and loved in this process, right? You want to bring in somebody that wants to play with him and that he wants to play with. And I think that's an incredibly important part of this, because you got to understand that now I don't care about contracts. Now the clock is ticking. And at this point, it becomes, can we keep Embiid happy enough that we know that he'll be here for the next 2 or 3 years? So I don't think Westbrook does that. In fact, I think the personality rub makes it more challenging for the coaching staff, for the front office, and it makes it more challenging for Embiid. I'm all out on that trade.
Yeah, it's like you get a different triple-double guy who's a willing shooter but a lousy shooter. I mean, I don't know.
Maybe you think about efficiency a little bit through this process. Like, I'm not trying to overplay the analytics portion of it, but maybe an efficient offensive weapon would be a helpful thing.
Yeah, that it seems to be, when you're watching these NBA playoffs right now, though, you got no Giannis, possibly. You got no Trae Young. How disastrous could this finals end up being for the league?
Well, I think it's disastrous for a couple of reasons. The lack of star power is going to be a big part of it. And, yeah, they'll get some help, whether it's Chris Paul or whether it's Paul George. The West will give a little bit of help. But if it turns out that Trae Young or Giannis are out for any extended amount of time, that's bothersome. Also bothersome, though, is the conversation that should be starting today that I think will rage up in the next 24 hours. I mean, are we at the spot where you're telling me that Middleton and Drew Holiday are worth respectively, what, $160 and $177 million for guys that can't win you a series against a team without their star player at 100%? Like, is the middle economics of being a star in the NBA $40 million a year? So I think that's a stunning admission, if so.
I had this conversation yesterday, and it's like the NBA players have put the team's backs against the wall of, if you don't pay me the max, I'll just get it from somebody else. And if you let me walk, you're on the hamster wheel of mediocrity or tanking. Like, you can't get out of the mess unless you acquiesce and say, I'll give you the max, even though I know you're not a max player. Like, how do you handle that dynamic?
Yeah, I think max player is no longer about max ability on the floor. It's about max importance to remain relevant. And that's what everybody's afraid of, is how do you manage irrelevance? And, to that end, we've got a Goldilocks situation. The NFL gives us way too much power to the team and no power for the player. The NBA is the exact opposite, with the fact that you're right. I mean, teams have to look at it and say, well, if we don't re-sign him, if we don't give him the max, somebody will. That's a problematic logic, because what happens is middle-of-the-road teams give the max to players that don't really deserve what the max was intended for, and all they do is maintain their ability to be middle-of-the-road players.
I see the press release that was just put out there yesterday that you will be grill side again for the Nathan's hot dog eating contest. One, what background would you have to be the sideline reporter for the hot dog eating contest?
Personality, charm, and remember, I was a fat kid growing up. So, like, this is a true story. When I was a little kid in Vegas at daycare.
Oh, so then I can have that job now?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, yeah, 1,000%. I'm just riding Mike Golick Jr.'s coattails, right? Now, I think when I was a little kid, there was this, I was at daycare. This is like, I'm 44. So this is pre-nanny cams and like webcams and everything. Like, nobody knew what kids were doing. And I was being accused by the daycare people of feeding the pack of hot dogs every day to the dogs, because the pack of hot dogs was going away. And I kept saying, no, I'm eating them. And I was a little kid at the time. They didn't believe me. So I got punished for lying. So they all sat there one day, waited till I wasn't looking, and then they hid around the corner to catch me. And they sat there and watched in wonderment as I ate an entire pack of hot dogs. So just because I'm a little guy now doesn't mean I still don't eat like a big guy. I love my hot dogs.
If you ever watch the hot dog eating contest, the smallest guy wins. You got the big dude at Badlands, Eric, whatever. He can't win that thing. It's the little tiny guy.
No, but Badlands is going to use the moment every year to do his music and let us all know that he's got a side career hustling as a rapper. Like, I do my same homework. Mike was talking about the other day. You'd be amazed. Junior has an actual board, just like we see college football analysts have, that has everything you need to know about every eater. We go in the day before, we talk to everybody, we get a sense of what they're excited for, like what difference humidity is going to make in the process of these eating contests. Like, it's amazing what goes into this. A lot of respect for it. mostly I'm just going to stand there and try not to gag at the sound of people gagging on hot dogs because it is loud and gross.
I can't imagine the scene of actually being there and watching it. The thing that skees me out more than anything is I can't fathom dipping the bun in the water and then eating that. That grosses me out. And I guess that's the technique that you can't just eat a dry bun. You have to make it wet. I can't do it. It makes me think of like, I'm not a smoker. So when I see a cigarette butt in an ashtray that's filled with water, like the rain, and it's like overflowing, that's what it makes me think of when I see them dip the hot dog in the water.
You're not wrong. It's absolutely like, so I went to Yankee Stadium for the first time recently, and it's funny. I went and I ate dinner first because I was like, I'm not going to do it. I'm trying to eat healthy. I got football season come up, got to be in good shape. I'm not going to eat stadium food. And then I walked in, and as soon as I walked in, there was this massive King's Hawaiian bread stand that everything they did was on King's Hawaiian bread. And like, I had just finished a massive dinner, and the first thing I did was order 2 hot dogs because like the bun matters in hot dog enjoyment, right? Like I had to eat the King's Hawaiian bread bun just to enjoy the sweetness of it. And it was well worth it. So yeah, I'm with you 100%. I keep looking at it thinking, God, I'd enjoy that so much more if they put a little butter on it and, took the time and just sort of ate for quantity instead of speed. But nobody likes my ideas.
So Joey Chestnut, is he back again? I would imagine, right?
Yes. Yeah,
This
but Joey's lost a couple times recently. So they're like, was that preseason? Is Joey going to come in? And yeah, I expect Joey to dominate. The interesting thing on the women's side is Mickey Sudo, who's done so well of late, is pregnant and is not going to be eating this year. So it opens up the field. Like we have no idea what's going to happen on the women's side. Joey's lost a couple of times. Is he losing his touch? Oh, there's so much drama.
Well, so like there is a lot of drama. This is like so intriguing because I watched the 30 for 30 on Kobayashi and the whole hop. Could they like wheel him in secretly, or is he completely done with this?
He is done. He will not. He won't come anywhere near it. He's got that legend status now, where he just doesn't want to come back and do anything that tarnishes. So I think he's out. He's out. He's totally out.
This could be like a WWE Royal Rumble where they bring like Hacksaw Jim Duggan out for like 30 seconds with a ho, and Kobayashi comes out acting like he's going to eat, and then eats one dog, and then he retires.
Because of my love and respect for the 80s wrestling, as you know, and the reference you just got in there, I'm so going to work in a ho in the middle of the broadcast somewhere. Like there's going to be a Hacksaw Jim Duggan reference somewhere in the broadcast, just for you.
Yeah. Thank you. Kobayashi could do like Demaryius Thomas. One dog, sign his contract, and I retire. That's what I want to see.
And people would watch it. They'd be fired up for it. It's good. I want to see wait 10 years and we'll wait. It'll be like Tyson Holyfield, like 10 years after anybody wants it. We'll get the rematch in a decade.
Do you know Tyson's birthday's today? And he is 55 years old.
Golly, I had no idea. Look at that.
You say something, and my brain, you say Tyson, I immediately know it's Tyson's birthday today. He's 55 years old. Boom. It changes the whole conversation. Good job by you.
Well, that's what I try for. Also, by the way, let's all admit, while we've got each other, and we're going to talk about wrestling and Mike Tyson, let's just admit to the world, we all did it in middle school. You had Tyson friends and WrestleMania friends because you couldn't afford the pay-per-view yourself. You'd make a friend with somebody 3 months in advance just so that you knew you'd get the invite to the parties. So I'm just saying it now. If you were the one that suddenly realized your friends like surged right before it, you were a Tyson or WrestleMania friend. And the other side of it, we just all need to admit we did it.
Oh, absolutely. My buddy had all of like the rubber figures where they were like stuck like this. And we had a whole dice rolling game that we drafted the guys and then had a dice rolling game. The numbers, you would look at the sheet, what that move was and how many points it was worth. Oh, it was, yeah.
I still have those figures, by the way. I still have a bunch of them. Macho Man's my guy. Still got a bunch of Macho Man toys. And I'm a grown man.
They're probably worth something, huh?
Now I keep them out of the box. Like I'm the one that goes into a toy store and then immediately rips it out of the box because it's a toy. Like I'm not going to put a toy in a box on a shelf because then I'm like a Key and Peele skit. Instead, I keep them out, and that way, like I feel better about it. Like anybody can come over anytime and play with 80s wrestling toys.
Spain and Fitz is tonight. Now, I was listening to Mike Golick on a podcast recently. He indicated that he recommended that you and him do the morning show. Was that something that you were aware of?
No, so I heard that interview, and Mike has been like he's been like a mentor to me and a friend. It's amazing, and I loved working with Mike, and I love working with Junior. And if anything, when I read that and heard that, I was really honored that my work was seen at that level. And that means a lot, especially given who Mike is and what a legend he is in this industry. And I'll tell you, the number of times that we go to break and Mike can lean over and say, "Hey, think about this or do that." Like he genuinely, from the day we started working together, Senior was always looked for opportunities to help me get better. So like to hear him say that meant quite a bit, because he's a great dude, great friend, but also like means he respects my work. That means something to me.
Good stuff. Jason Fitz, Spain and Fitz airs on 97.3 ESPN, and he was kind enough to join us with the Teen Wolf shirt. Next week we'll have another. When Andrew McCutcheon hits a homer, he and the third base coach do a rock, paper, scissors. It doesn't happen often. It's only happened like 3 or 4 times this year. But we will have the T-shirt stare down next Wednesday at 3 o'clock.
I'm in for it. Have a good week, my friend.
See you, man. Jay Fitz here on the Sports Bash. ESPN Radio's Jason Fitz, Spain and Fitz, tonight at 7 o'clock here on 97.3 ESPN. They will lead you into Game 6 of the Western Conference Finals. When we come back, how to fix the Phillies. The truth about the Phillies from the Truth Giver. Kevin Cooney, PhillyVoice.com. Is there a fix for the Phillies? If there is, he will tell you. If there isn't, you're going to hear it. Coming up next on the Sports Bash. All right, Kevin Cooney covers the Phillies for PhillyVoice.com. He has a piece out today about the halfway point of the season, the problems with this team. Now, I know that just asking, what's the fix? We could do a 4-hour show on that, but we only have a couple of minutes, and Kevin Cooney is the perfect guy to tell us the truth. He is the truth teller when it comes to this Phillies team. He will not hold back. If you read him over at PhillyVoice.com, he will explain it to you right now on the Sports Bash Live on 97.3 ESPN as he joins me here on a Wednesday where the Phillies won last night. So, Kevin, they want us to tell the good. They did win a game last night.
They won a game. Vince Velasquez looked halfway decent. That's about it. That's all we can talk about good with them right now because the bullpen's the best. And, Mike, I keep trying to be positive that they can find a way to get better and get in the hunt and make it interesting August and September. And I keep, batting my head up against the wall thinking, eventually you got to turn things over to the bullpen. And that's where, the game over is for this team right now. So.
Well, you wrote a couple of days ago about the fact that they know who they are. What are they? Are they a team that is just kind of trying to hang on to the middle ground here? Are they a team that is trying to fly by the seat of their pants? Are they a team that knows they're not very good but can't do anything about it because of Harper's contract? How would they describe themselves?
I think they would describe themselves as that they have pieces, but in the end, they know that their pieces are probably not good enough because their minor league system can't supply those pieces. I don't think it's just the Bryce Harper contract. I think it's simplistic to say, well, you overextended yourself on Bryce Harper, and that's while the years I would agree they went too far out, but I don't think the annual value is prohibitive for a player of Bryce Harper's talent. My argument would be, if you're going to make that big move, then you better have other pieces in the minor league system, and they just don't have it. I mean, look at them defensively. I mean, they have a third baseman, or they have a first baseman playing third. They have a designated hitter playing first. You have a old center fielder playing left who has no range anymore. Odubel's a mess. Luke Williams and all the guys that they've now brought up are the definition of journeymen. They are not a good farm system. They're not a good organization at this point. And the problem is they're boxed in. There's no hope coming from the minors. There's no hope really coming in a way of a trade because you don't have the pieces to make a major move unless you're willing to maybe trade an Aaron Nola, and I don't see that happening. I mean, they're you know who they are, Mike? They're the Anaheim Angels. They really are in a lot of ways. Some marquee names, but they ain't going to win anything.
Let me ask you then about Dombrowski, because he has one World Series. It's not like the guy's an idiot. I mean, he has a pretty good resume. But is this the right fix? Is this the right type of team for him to try to fix?
It's an interesting question. And I think if you put him and Joe Girardi on a little bit of truth serum, if they look at the situation now compared to when they were making the decision to come here, I would be fascinated to find out how much has changed in their minds. When you kind of get below the surface and you see, wow, you look at this lineup and you have Real Muto and Harper and Hoskins can do some things. And now that you're kind of fully into it, you see that it's a more complex situation, which it obviously is, than you possibly thought. And would it have changed your mind if they knew this in advance? I don't know. I mean, obviously the money is good for both of them. And the challenge, some guys thrive off the challenge, and I think Dave Dombrowski is not going to back down from it. But I think let's also be completely honest. It's not a quick fix situation. I mean, they're 2 or 3 years away from maybe being 2 or 3 years away at this point.
Yeah, I agree with that, because I will say I thought Klintak was way over his head, and Dombrowski, who I don't think's an idiot, I find that it's going to be a challenge for somebody who wants to build a winner with this. Like, if you were to say, give me the first recipe for taking a step in the right direction, does that recipe even exist? Is that ingredient even here?
And you're almost in that no man's land. Mike, I know you felt this with the NBA, and it's a little bit the same in baseball in a sense of you're not going to have that high-end draft pick that you go, that guy. That's the guy we're building for who's a top 5 guy. Obviously, in baseball, it's different anyway, but the Phillies are not bad enough to pick in that top of the draft order like they were 2016, 2017 when you're getting Mickey Moniak and Adam Hazley, which is really where the damage has been done here. I mean, you have 2 picks in the top 10 that you absolutely whiffed on. It's pretty difficult to overcome that when you're a bad team.
Kevin Cooney's with us, by the way, phillyvoice.com. He's got 2 really good stories about this Phillies situation that is going up in the last week, so I encourage you to check them out. Joe Girardi. All right, this one's interesting to me because I don't know that he has done a great job, to be fair, but we ran Kapler out because we thought he was the biggest problem. He's the problem with this team. Well, he's now got the best team in baseball. So is the manager the issue on this team?
Let's also put it out there. Let's put Gabe Kapler in the Hall of Fame in September. Okay, let's see. Second half Gabe has always been substantially worse than first half Gabe.
True.
So before we're throwing parades down Market Street in San Francisco, let's hold off on the Gabe issue. But we want to get on Girardi here. It's a roster issue. I don't know what manager could have done anything with that bullpen. I don't know what manager looks at that could make a major difference with that center field situation that they had. And having to go back to Odubel Herrera after kind of going around and around, wanting to avoid Odubel Herrera for obvious reasons. I mean, the roster situation is the more alarming thing.
Yeah.
That being said, Mike, Joe Girardi has been a disappointment because, I believe that teams that play tight often are a reflection of their manager. And this team often looks like it plays extremely tight and nervous and antsy and everything. It's not that they're too laid back. I think it's almost the opposite. I think, you see an Alec Bohm make an error at third base, and it's just it's a hyperactivity. And then you see what Girardi's done and the way Girardi's handled some of the off the field stuff. The not wanting to talk about injuries and lineup decisions the way he did, and snapping at the media for that, and the whole Scherzer thing last week and 2 weeks ago. All of that, in my mind, is an indication of a manager that is just jumpy at this point.
Yeah.
And for a veteran who's managed in New York City in the biggest pressure cooker there is, I'm really surprised by that at this point. Could Joe Girardi be fine? Yeah. Is he going to get fired? No. It's a matter of, no. Take a deep breath. And maybe look like you're having a little bit of fun for your money.
Yeah. It's funny because, as you mentioned, and I agree, I don't think Kapler's this great manager that they missed out on, the Terry Francona situation where the team wasn't good. You let him go. He went to a good team and became a good manager. The question, I guess, is, and Girardi, here's a guy, as you just mentioned, he won a World Series. I guess, is it the fact that the game is changing so much and it's like managers aren't managing as much anymore? The analytics have taken over. And where do the Phillies kind of sit on that side of things? Are they an analytics team? Are they not? Are they stuck in the middle? Is that causing some of the problems? Or does it go back to they just don't have a very good roster?
Well, let's also be honest. Joe did have a little bit of it was called Binder Joe for a reason in New York. And, part of what we see with the over-reliance on the bullpen, if you want to go back to what happened with Eflin on Saturday, and he's going into the bullpen, and you're wondering, well, Eflin looks great. He's out doing the Grom. What are you doing? Well, that's Joe. That was Joe in New York. But Joe's problem was he had Betances, and he had Rivera, and he had Dave Robinson, and all those guys he could turn to. Here he's turning to Neftali Feliz, who is, to be blunt, not in the majors for 4 years for a reason, and not just because of injury. I mean, this is one of those things in my mind, Mike, that he's trying to use the system to play the hits that he had in New York, but it's a completely different band.
In your opinion, the way they've handled this Spencer Howard situation, what does that say about the plan they have as an organization?
I don't think they know what to do with Spencer Howard. I know now they're going to try to stretch him out again and try to make him a traditional starter. And, they were so worried about the innings limit coming into the year and all this. I deep down, I wonder if they have any idea how to handle Spencer Howard. And part of that, honestly, has to fall on Spencer Howard. He does not look like he's in condition. And that's not, okay, you get to the fourth inning and your velocity drops and everything. It's like, you're going to tell me you're tired from running bases as a National League pitcher? I mean, really? Like, what, I just, there's some guys who are able to command their own situation. And Spencer Howard doesn't look like that guy. And we're at 25 years old.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not like he's a kid anymore. Like, you were the number one prospect in this organization. You had time to put the big boy pants on, time to show that you were worthy of that title. And if you're not, then get out of the way. But the problem is, he's not blocking anybody at this point. Like, who's the guy he's blocking in this organization? Adonis Medina is not exactly lighting the world on fire either.
Isn't there maybe then another role for him? Like, have they not figured that out? Like, this guy obviously can help us. Maybe it's not the role we want. Our bullpen's a disaster. Should we find out if that's maybe what his role is?
Remember when with Ryan Madsen, they put Madsen as a starter there in like 2005, 2006, and he was lost. He was a 4-inning, 5-inning guy. And Rich Doobie finally kind of looked and said, I had enough, and he put him back in the back end of the pen. And in 07 and 08, he was the perfect setup guy for this team, along with J.C. Romero for Brett Myers at first. Then obviously when he went in for Brad Lidge, in front of Brad Lidge in 08 and 09. Could that be it? It could. Is there a value there? Absolutely. The problem is, we always had this argument with Vince Velasquez as well. And I think we all kind of figured out at some point, well, maybe there's a reason why the Phillies aren't necessarily focused on Vince Velasquez as a steady 7th, 8th, or 9th inning piece. And I had somebody in the Phillies organization go, he has trouble with the first and second. What makes you think he can handle the 8th or the 9th? And it was like, that's a fair point. So I'm wondering, I'm not saying I've talked to anybody about Spencer Howard in this way. I'm not. But I'm saying that that indication to me tells me that there's some people who wonder if he could handle that type of a late inning role.
And that's fair to say that, but to not
totally
explore to not explore it when he's pitched 2 good innings almost in every game and then falls apart in the third. Why? And my bullpen's a disaster. I don't know what to do with this guy. My bullpen stinks. Why don't I say, hey, let's see if you can pitch in these situations? It can't hurt, right?
It can't, but I almost wonder. It's strange because they're a team that has nothing coming. They're not that young, and you almost wonder, like, okay, well, why are you, playing for the future like this? Why you're not playing for the future necessarily? You're playing for now,
right?
But they make moves that make you feel like they're playing for the future in a long game here. And if that's the case, then you're going to end up being at 75 to 82 wins and staring at 3rd or 4th place.
That point there is a very interesting one. Kevin Cooney makes, that This team here, if their bullpen was half decent, is probably right in the thick of things, and they're still in the thick of things with this bullpen. If you had a young guy who can get people out, that you can't figure out what to do with them in the starting role, why not transition him into that role for this season? Worry about how to stretch him out in the offseason, get him on some different program, but to do what they're doing with him with this bullpen seems to be counterproductive. Now, that being said,
and Mike, I'll also say this, and this sounds strange to bring this up. You have 1 month if you're this team to not just show your front office that you're worthy of making a move, which I don't know what they could do at this point, but you also have 1 month where you get the attention of your fan base. And I can't oversell this. This is a team that, even with the pandemic ending, has struggled at the gate. And they struggled to they've fallen the third in this city pretty easily. I think it's fair to say. And you got 1 month until the Eagles hit training camp. And you got 1 month basically where you have the floor to yourself. If you lay an egg in this month, you are lost in this city. August and September, and even next year, trying to sell tickets for this team will be an impossible situation, and that has a trickle-down effect on your payroll and everything else going forward.
Agree. Totally agree with that. So, Kevin, why is this, the immediate future of this franchise, as you mentioned, you got to try to win them over, but this almost feels like a throwaway season. There's essentially nothing this team can do, I feel like, right now to kind of start back over. You have the Harper deal, so you can't tell him, hey, we're going to strip this thing back down. You have the Real Muto deal, so you can't strip it back down. You're paying Wheeler big, but you have essentially a team that you're saying we're right there, but we're not close. We don't have any way to do it. So is this a throwaway year for Dombrowski just to oversee things and let contracts run out?
It certainly feels like that in a lot of ways. Like, Dave Dombrowski didn't get in until real late in the process in the off season. You also think about the idea that you didn't know what your pandemic limits were because of obviously nobody was sure when they would have people back in the ballpark, how many games they would play, what the structure was going to be. The one complicating factor in that for next year is going to be what the collective bargaining agreement will look like, whether you have a DH. But you will probably have a better feel next year for what they are. And, and where they're going to go with Harper, with Real Muto, and Wheeler kind of being your base, and then see what other role players kind of go around it. And if that's the case, then you're kind of just lost in the wilderness for the rest of this year, whether you want to admit it or not.
Feels like it.
Because they're not good enough. You're not good enough right now. Ruben Amaro was on Comcast on Sunday, and he said it. They're not close to contending right now. You're not getting a wild card out of the National League East. I mean, if that's the case, then you're kind of stuck.
Totally agree there, and I'll leave you with this. You just said you're kind of stuck, but are they wasting playoff caliber starting pitching?
Well, this week, sure. But a month ago, Aaron Nola was viewed as a number 3, number 4 starter in a lot of eyes. I mean, at the moment, yes, they are a playoff caliber rotation. Could that change in a hurry, though? Yeah, it could. And so, that obviously proves that there's still some flaws that go beyond that too.
At Kevin Cooney, phillyvoice.com. Check out that piece. And you can follow him on Twitter for all of his stuff. And he's a great follow. And check out the podcast, Working the Beat, him and Mike Kern. It's always an entertaining listen there as well. Boy, this Phillies season has gotten really interesting. And as you mentioned, they have about a month to grab our attention because there's a team that doesn't have a lot of expectations getting ready to start in about a month. And, of course, they are the Eagles. Kevin, appreciate it and enjoyed it as always, man.
Not a problem, Mike. And remember, the Eagles rule everything in this town, so it doesn't matter whether there's low expectations or not. So
that is right. That is right. And he's right, Kevin. I appreciate it. Time as always. Kevin Cooney, the Eagles do rule the roost. If they're a 2-win team, a 4-win team, an 8-win team, a 12-win team, or a Super Bowl team, the Eagles will always be at the top because their passion for football is just so huge. So the Phillies have this little time frame where nobody else is playing, and they cannot capitalize on it. They haven't been able to do it. Everything, unfortunately, has been negative, including Reese Hoskins saying, hey, we've done some good things, which has turned into a negative for the team. Sports Bash Live, 97.3, ESPN, the free mobile app, and, of course, watch the show live, Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter, where you can comment live in real time. Also, the text board is open, 609-403-0973, 609-403-0973. That's the way you can get involved in the show. ESPN.com has 2 Sixers trade offers that they post. I will tell you those potential deals and my reactions coming up next. All right, 347. I'm Mike Gill, Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN. The live video, 97.3ESPN.com. Search 97.3 ESPN on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. If you want to watch the show live, you can text 609-403-0973, 609-403-0973. Sports Bash is brought to you by your Delaware Valley Acura dealers. For great deals on Acura's award-winning lineup, shop online at DelValAcuraDealers.com. ESPN.com's NBA Insiders put together a pair of trades that involve Ben Simmons. One of which is Philadelphia gets Russell Westbrook and the number 15 overall pick. Washington would get Ben Simmons and George Hill. Thoughts on that? 609-403-0973, 609-403-0973. I'll give it to you one more time. It is Russell Westbrook and the 15th pick to Philly for Ben Simmons and George Hill. All right, a lot to unpack on this because Russell Westbrook obviously scores 22 points a game. He is essentially a 6'3" version of what you wish Ben Simmons could be. A triple-double machine, score, rebound, pass, open floor, ball to basket. Here's the problem. Russell Westbrook's 32 years old, not a great defensive player. He's small, and his limitations are similar to Ben's. He will shoot. He's not very good. 31% from three. He'll get to the line. He's not very good. Russell Westbrook's a 65% free throw shooter this year. Now, in his career from the line, he is 79%. So there is, he has been an 80% shooter, 84. He has progressively gone down as he's got older. I mean, he was 84, then 73, then 65, then 76. Now, this year he was 65 again. He gets to the line about 7 times a game. His three-point shot has gotten progressively worse. He's in about the 20% range for most of his career. I should say 29% range. He was 25% 2 years ago, 31% last year. This past year, I should say. So the Russell Westbrook, by the way, he's got a very interesting relationship with Joel Embiid from his time in Oklahoma City. Those two have seemingly got into it a bunch. At 32 years old, 22 points a game, he can score the ball. Now, in the playoffs against Philadelphia, if you remember his last couple of games against Philly, he had a game where he scored 16, 10, 26, 19, 24. He gives you what many people want from Ben Simmons, nights where he can score 30, 25, 26. But the shot is the problem. He is not a good shooter. And I think people want more of an efficient scorer than they just want a guy who's going to be making you pull your hair out. So would a Russell Westbrook for Ben Simmons swap push your pile, I guess you could ask? 609-403-0973, 609-403-0973. Let me know. Would you do that deal? Over on the text board, Mike, Westbrook can't shoot and Philly hates him. Oh, I kind of mapped all that out. He is not a good shooter. He has declined immensely from the free throw line, and he is not the most popular guy, even maybe within his own locker room if he came here. Now, he's very Ben Simmons-esque, triple-doubles. I mean, his numbers, 22 points, 11.5 rebounds, 11.7 assists. I feel like if he's on your team, you love him. If he's on that team, you can't stand him. He's that kind of guy. He's very Allen Iverson, hustles, slides all over the floor. But at 32 years old, can he keep playing that high level of intensity like that all the time? Like Westbrook, to me, he's a gamer. But is he a winner? Westbrook feels like the guy that's always on the bad team. Now, He won an MVP. It's crazy that someone would say, he was the MVP of the league. You don't want him? I feel like that Westbrook for Simmons deal. Now, you're getting the 15th pick in the draft. Does that push your pile? And I ask that because you can use pick 15 and pick 28 to maybe get yourself a little higher. This is a pretty good draft. Could you get up to the 10th spot? And does getting the 10th player in the draft add to this team in this particular draft? So that's one deal. The other deal is the one with Cleveland, and that is Ben Simmons goes to Cleveland, and in return, you get Colin Sexton, Kevin Love, and a top 10 protected first-round pick in next year's draft. Sexton's interesting. 24 points a game, 39% from three-point range. So he can shoot the three, and he has progressively gotten better shooting the three in his career with the Cleveland Cavaliers. His first 3 seasons in the league, that number has progressively gone up. So he's a guy that, might be intriguing from three-point range, 40%, 38, 37, free throw shooter, 83, 84, 81. So he's an 80% from that perspective. His points per game have gone up, 16, 20, 24. Point guard, guy who wants to take the last shot. Don't know if he's ready to do it in the biggest spot. However, you would get a point guard who can score the ball. His last couple games for Cleveland this year, 22, 25, 29, 15, 27, 24, 25, 28, 26. Kevin Love, who's going to play on the Olympic team, by the way. And Kevin Love, I don't think is a starting. I mean, he could start, but on a team that wants to win a championship, is he a better piece off the bench? At 32 years old, he averaged 12 points. He still can shoot the three. This past season from three-point range, he shot 36%. He's 82% from the line. He probably would be a guy that can give you the minutes behind Tobias Harris that you couldn't find this year. But how many years can he do it at 32 years old? He's got 2 more years left on his contract, $31 million this year, $28 million next year. Does that deal push your pile? By the way, in that deal, you would also be getting a top 10 protected first-round pick, which means if it fell outside the top 10, you get that pick for 2022. That one, I think of the two trades, the Sexton Love first-round pick for Simmons, if I had to pick one, I'm not saying I love both of them, I would pick that one over the other one. Zach Ertz on the move. Find out next.
97.3 ESPN presents The Sports Bash with Mike Gill. It's time for Football at 4 with Jeff Mosier.
My personality is I want to win badly. I want to win more Lombardis for Philadelphia and our fans. We got the greatest fans around, and I will do everything possible.
Powered by the Inside the Birds podcast. Now, live from inside the Matt Black Kia Studios. This is Football at 4.
Football at 4 is powered by the Inside the Birds podcast. A new one drops tomorrow morning. They have been taking a look at the NFC East. It is brought to you by PropSwap, America's sports betting marketplace. Sell your sports bet, take your profit, find out how at PropSwap.com. Speaking of PropSwap, Jeff Mosher, if I was to tell you, now the odds of the Eagles having the worst record in football, they are the 5th best odds, meaning they have the 5th best chance, I guess, according to Vegas, to be the worst team. Plus 1,200 odds. Is that good value for you?
I don't see them as being the worst team in football off the top of my head. I have to go. I still think Jacksonville is going to be a bad team. I know they have Trevor Lawrence, but I don't believe in the Urban Meyer experiment. In fact, I'll just ask you because I don't know who has the best chance of being the worst team in football.
Well, according to Vegas, the best odds, the best worst team odds
right.
would be the Houston Texans plus 175.
Yeah.
Detroit plus 300.
Yep.
Jacksonville plus 700.
Mm-hmm.
Cincinnati plus 1,000.
Okay. I think Cincinnati will be better, but okay.
Jacksonville and Philly are both tied at plus 1,200.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's the one thing about football. You never know. I mean, we thought the Eagles would be a pretty good team last year and a Super Bowl contender, and they wound up winning 4 games. So anything can happen. I suppose, if the Jalen Hurts experiment goes awry, or even if he gets hurt for a long time and has to miss most of the year, and Joe Flacco or is your backup and it's not work, anything can happen. But I would not say on paper right now that the Eagles are worse than Jacksonville, Houston, or Detroit.
Well, the fact that you are in the same 5 block with them doesn't say very good things.
Well, to me, it just says that there's a lot of uncertainty. I mean, they certainly could be an 8 or 9 win team, which would be a lot better than that, but also just kind of in the middle of the pack with a lot of teams that you have uncertainty about.
Right. Not a good value, it seems like. I mean, it's a team that certainly could be all across the map I feel like we keep trying to find the things that are positive about this team. You want to have a good football season, but there are probably, would you say there's more check marks in the negative category or the positive category?
Oh, it depends on how you break it down. If you went position by position and you did corner, safety, linebacker, D-line, O-line, you'd probably, what's that, about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 9 positions? You're probably going to go, I don't know, because there are some positions that you look at and you won't go great or bad. You'll put in the middle. So, right? I mean, so it's very hard to tell. To me, they're a team that can be competitive on a week-to-week basis. I don't know if they have enough to really prevail in some of the tough games against teams that are going to be good, but that's for us to find out.
All right, Jeff Mosher from the Inside the Birds podcast. I don't know that you caught this today, but Merrill Reese apparently feels that Zach Ertz is getting traded to Buffalo and that it could be pretty soon. Are you putting a lot of stock in what the play-by-play voice of the Philadelphia Eagles said?
Wow, we mean I might have to hire Merrill Inside the Birds if he's going to break news like that, especially if it winds up happening. Although I think he's doing pretty well in his day job. I'll tell you everything I know about the Zach Ertz situation because it's been stuff that we've reported on Inside the Birds. Right around the draft, reported that the Bills were interested. No, from good sourcing, the Bills were interested in Ertz, but I was told at the time that it was unlikely to happen at the draft, even though it felt like that was a good time to move. Then June 1st came along. We checked back into it because money clears for a lot of teams on June 1st. Looked into the Bills situation. I was told not much had changed. Now, this isn't to say that there is no interest. Of course, there's interest. I don't think that's the issue. The issue is I would imagine, is the compensation, the salary, things of that nature. So that was June 1st, and now we're in July. The OTAs are over for a lot of teams. I know the Bills have done some contract restructures. I believe Stephon Diggs got a contract restructure. So they've probably cleared some cash, and maybe that helps accelerate or re-accelerate these conversations. I was at the point where I was starting to think that the Eagles and Howie were waiting for training camp to see if a team, suffers a tight end injury and therefore kind of increases the demand for Zach Ertz. But if, you're in a period of time now where coaches and GMs are kind of evaluating the tape from their whatever kind of version of OTAs they have and evaluating what they have and don't have. And clearly the Bills could use a good pass catching tight end like Zach Ertz. So maybe they've, in their evaluations, feel like it's time to talk or revisit the discussions. But yes, I know the Bills are interested. Definitely can tell you that. There have been discussions, but as far as I've been checking into it, there has not been much movement. But now it's been about a week or two since I last looked in.
Yeah, I know it was just, kind of randomly out there today. The exact quote from Merrill Reese was this, quote.
Wait, can you read it in Merrill's voice, please, so I get the full experience?
I could try. I've done a pretty decent Merrill Reese in the past, although I feel like my throat's a little messed up today.
Yeah, I'll just put you on the spot, too. That's tough.
Yeah, it is. The word today is that they are very close to a deal, and I don't have any inside information to substantiate this, but the word is that they're close to a deal with Buffalo for Zach Ertz. I believe you have as much chance of being on this roster as Zach Ertz in a few weeks. I mean, that's pretty strong for Merrill to say.
Well, let's work backwards on that. I agree with Merrill's last statement because that's a statement I've been making myself. I don't believe that Zach Ertz is going to be on this team moving forward. And I think Dallas Goedert will be the primary tight end next year. So I agree with Merrill on that. I guess if I were asking Merrill a question, or if this were a press conference, I would ask him to clarify how he has no inside information, but yet the word today is that they're getting closer to a deal. Well, how would you know that the word today is that they're very close to a deal without any inside information? Because I haven't seen any other reports going on. So I would that to me, there's some inconsistency there. It doesn't pass my reporter test.
Right. I mean, it's one of those things where it's like, I said something I probably shouldn't have said, so I can't substantiate this, but he's going to Buffalo.
Yeah. And you know what? If it does happen, I don't think anybody will be surprised.
No, I don't think you're surprised, but I was bringing this up earlier. Like, he's still here. Like, I don't know that the Eagles are like, we want to trade you. Do you feel like this is more that Ertz just doesn't want to be here anymore?
Well, I mean, that's kind of the Carson Wentz situation all over again. Did the Eagles really want to get rid of the guy that they paid, or was it an untenable situation where they realized it did not make sense to bring him back given his feelings and given where they were at? I think, Zach Ertz, again, do they want to get rid of Zach Ertz? No, it's always good to have good players, and he's still a good player of some capacity. He can still help a team, but you're having contract extension talks with Dallas Goedert right now. You've invested in your wide receiver room over the past year and a half here. You're probably going to want to be on 11 personnel offense. You don't want to be forced to play 2 tight end offenses. So it doesn't really make sense anymore to have Zach Ertz on this team at that money when you're trying to develop other guys who are younger at his position and other positions. So I don't necessarily think that they want him back either. They may not be loving getting rid of him, but I don't think the fit is there anymore.
I like, here's the one thing is like, okay, you're Howie Roseman. The Bills are being talked about as a Super Bowl contender, correct?
Yes.
Their tight end is Dawson Knox.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have a position of power there saying, if you're a Super Bowl contender and you feel comfortable with Dawson Knox, that's great. I'll keep Zach Ertz. Or you really want to be a Super Bowl contender and I'll give you a all-pro, Pro Bowl tight end, but you need to give me something substantial here. Like, do you think they have any hand here?
Like I said, I think the best kind of leverage is more teams interested. And if a team out there, and there are still a couple of teams, Mike, that really do rely heavily on tight ends. New England is one. Baltimore is one. San Francisco is another. Any of these teams could lose a tight end like that. We saw how many injuries San Francisco had last year. Any of these teams could lose a tight end like that in training camp to any kind of injury, and all of a sudden, Zach Ertz may look a lot better, especially if that team had plans to win this year or be more competitive. And it's not far-fetched to think that could happen. Now, do they want to go into training camp with Zach still on the roster and not showing up? And then do they want to have to find him? This is the guy who caught the game-winning touchdown in the Super Bowl? Do they want to have to start fining him? They don't have to, by the way. They can waive any fines for whatever he misses. I would hope that they would do that. But the point is, if you have an opportunity to get rid of him now before the start of camp and you feel the compensation is right and it's fair and you're not going to get that much better, I can see the advantages of doing it now before camp starts.
We talked about this back at the mini camps or the mandatories or whatever that they kind of waive those mandatories, but we were going to find out were they going to, in fact, fine Zach Ertz for not being there. Well, they waived the mandatory. So we said, oh, well, we have some time to figure that out. Well, Sand is going through the hourglass here on this whole situation. So the point you bring up about fining him, that could get it's pretty interesting. So if he's still here and they waive that, are they trying to say, look, Zach, we want you to be here. We don't want to fine you. We want you to come.
I don't know. I really don't. Again, even in a practice format, right? When you're out there with first team, you want Dallas Goedert out there and you want your 3 receivers out there getting as many reps. Do you want Zach Ertz out there and then being forced to run? This is like the Alshon Jeffrey situation last year. Oh, we can't trade him because he's hurt. Then we wait for him to get healthy. Now he's healthy. We've already moved on mentally and as a team, but he's here making $1 gajillion. So I guess we're going to have to throw him on the field and play him. And he winds up catching 13 balls in the last 6 or 7 games, right? I mean, was there really any point to having Alshon Jeffrey on the field there? Some will say maybe it was good veteran presence. Others will say no, not really. And I don't think that they want to have that same situation with Zach Ertz.
Jeff Mosher from the Inside the Birds podcast. Apparently Merrill Reese thinks that Zach Ertz is about to be traded. Could happen at any time. So what's a better possibility in your mind? I know you said it's been about 2 weeks since you checked in, but that he makes it to training camp or he's gone before training camp?
Well, I kind of go back and forth. I convinced myself about a week or two ago that at this point, it just makes sense. If you're not getting the offer you want, then you wait for training camp to start and see if somebody gets injured, and you tell Zach to stay home and you'll waive the fines. And, if something happens, then you have a deal. But, you have to consider the potential that nobody gets hurt and you don't have a deal for Zach Ertz. So, like I said, if there's something that's around here now as we get closer to camp, because really camp is your deadline, your first real deadline, not the draft or not OTAs. If there's something there now, I think that Howie would see the sense in making that move.
All right, Jeff, on the latest edition of Q&A with Quentin Michael and Jason Avant, which you can get on the Inside the Birds platform, they spoke about Jalen Hurts. And I find this to be interesting because we brought this up last week. There was a list that did not include Jalen Hurts as a top 40 quarterback in the entire NFL. Those two offered a rebuttal to that list in suggesting that, hey, you might have missed a guy on your 40-man list. So I definitely would like to hear some insight from what those guys think about Hurts and why he belongs on that list.
Yeah, and, they didn't really specifically say where they think Jalen belongs, which I think is good because I think that goes in line with the whole unknown, right? And I think that they've fairly pointed out and I didn't hear all of the Chris Sims interview, so maybe he addressed it, but is this based on last year only or is it cumulative? Because
it wasn't an interview. He just put out a list of his top 40.
Oh, right. But I know he went on an interview with someone and then said something about the guy can't make
I would say this is based on nothing because he included rookies.
Correct, but I know he made a comment about in an interview, I think it was, where he said that Jalen missed some throws that a high school senior would make. Right?
He did mention that the arm. He was not impressed with the arm and some of the accuracy of the throws.
Yeah, correct. He was talking about his throwing motion in particular. So anyway, the point is if the list is about last year and last year only, well, how do you have rookies from this year? How do you have Tom Brady 7th? That doesn't make sense. He won the Super Bowl 10th. Thank you. If it's cumulative, you're taking into account everything, then again, how do you have Tom Brady 10th or how would you even put any rookies who were drafted this year on the list because they've not had any say in it. So there's some inconsistency already that they found with the rankings. And, Jason made it a point to say, look, I guess Chris Sims has been outspoken in the past about how the Eagles handled the Carson Wentz situation. So he feels like it helps fuel the argument that they screwed up everything with Carson Wentz by then ranking Jalen Hurts really low, right? So there's some, I guess, bias in there as well. But there are some things, like, for example, and I get where Quentin Michael was getting at with this. He says, if you're going to make a statement like the high school thing, which was out of line, give me some stats, give me some data, give me some video. The only thing I would say in Sims' defense is, if you went with stats and pointed out Jalen's completion percentage last year, that's not fair because he had a lot of throwaways. They told him to throw away the ball, don't take sacks. He did a great job of not taking sacks and throwing away the ball, but that impacts your completion percentage. It's also an awful offensive line. Your first time in that offense, there's just too many variables to just throw. And I'm happy that Sims didn't say he's inaccurate because he's a 58% or whatever the completion percentage was. And I thought Chris, at least whether you agree or disagree, explained what he saw in his tape film, which was an elongated motion that he feels will not have good long-term success or lends itself to good long-term accuracy. We can debate that all day long, and we can talk about other quarterbacks like Phillip Rivers who have funky mechanics but still have been very accurate throughout the course of their career. But that was the point. I'm going to defend Chris Sims on that and just saying it's not like he blindly said, this kid's inaccurate. I mean, he did have a little bit of substance to what he was saying about why he felt that his throw, and he didn't even actually say he's just an inaccurate quarterback. He said he had a motion that can lend itself to inaccuracy at times. But the high schooler comment was a little out of line because then
there was way too many slam dunk easy completions that I would expect a good senior high school quarterback to make.
Yeah, that's not fair. That's not. I mean, how many? I've seen really good quarterbacks in the NFL miss some under pressure or whatever that you could say that about. So you
by the way, they had one on their roster last year who missed.
Yeah, Carson Wentz. Exactly.
I mean, realistically, the guy Wentz was in this position because he couldn't complete the easiest of passes.
Mike, I mean, Carson was missing throws last year that you could have made. So, I mean,
yes.
And I know you're a good athlete, but I'm not trying to, diminish you. I'm just saying.
I mean, that throw, yes, you're right. Throws that anybody could make. Yes, those throws were being missed last year. I thought that Hurts' completion percentage was low for good reasons. And reasons that if Wentz followed suit, that he might not have thrown so many interceptions. That Hurts did a good job of getting rid of the ball when it warranted. Right. And unfortunately, because the Eagles didn't have very good receivers and their offensive line was a mess, you had to throw the ball away a lot.
Yeah, well, I'll tease this. Next week, we've been doing our NFC East. Yeah, and our NFC East preview series on Inside the Birds. Tomorrow at 6 a.m., the Washington one will drop. We had Dallas earlier this week. We'll do the Giants and Eagles next week. We've already talked with Greg Cosell, who's on with us to do these previews, and you know how well Greg breaks down tape. And he's already kind of shared with us some of his thoughts on Jalen Hurts' tape last year. And I'll say this. There are areas where Greg can be critical of Jalen Hurts, but he does a phenomenal job of explaining, A, why that is, and B, how just because it was like that, in the 3 games doesn't mean it's going to be like that this upcoming season when he's working with a new offense and new scheme and new weapons. But he will at least tell you why he thinks there were some accuracy issues with Hurts last year in his very limited playing time.
All right, well, check that out. Tomorrow is, of course, the Washington football team, the Giants on Monday, Philadelphia next Thursday for the Inside the Birds podcast. It drops Mondays and Thursdays at 6 a.m. And I would imagine in about a month, you're going to have to crank out a third one.
Oh, yeah, that'll start up pretty soon.
All
Looking forward to that.
Football for Jeff Mosher at Jeff Mosher NFL, powered by the Inside the Birds podcast at Inside Birds. Check out their platform for all of their great Inside the Birds shows. Adam Kaplan is here tomorrow. And, of course, Andrew will be back. We're previewing all the divisions with Andrew. On Friday, we will look at the AFC Central, which could be one of the most entertaining ones in the entire league this year. Pittsburgh, Cleveland, Cincinnati, and Baltimore. That one's going to be really interesting. So check that out on Friday with Andrew. Moshe's back on Monday. So have a good weekend, man. Actually, no, Monday we are off. So
I'm off.
Yeah, well, we might have something special for the listeners that I might include you in on.
Oh, I can't wait. I'm excited. All right.
I haven't reached out to you yet about this, but I am now telling you.
All right, well, this is like Merrill Reese. You're dropping a bomb on me here.
And you don't know about it quite yet.
That was pretty good, Mike. I like it.
All right, Mosh.
All right, brother. See you later.
at Jeff Mosher NFL. Follow him there on Twitter. I am Mike Gill. This is the Sports Bash. You can watch the show live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. Now, it's easy to do. If you follow us on any of those platforms, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Just hit the subscribe button. You will get an alert when our shows go live. Sports Bash live, Game Night live. You can also friend us on Facebook. And when we go live on that platform, you can watch us there. And you can follow us on Twitter at 973ESPN. And when the show goes live, you can watch on those 3 platforms. Live video, streaming of the show, like Jeff Mosher. You could have watched our conversation live. And you can listen on the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app, which you can download very easily. And I encourage you to do it. 973ESPN.com/app. And you can listen to the show, take the show on the go. A lot getting into. All right. Do you remember on this day, June 30th? What happened on June 30th in sports? Well, I have some events that you are going to be like, wow, June 30th, this all happened? That's the case. Find out next. right, do you remember these events all happened on this day, June 30th, back in time? Josh Henning is my producer. We will fire these events his way, see what they mean to him. Some of them happened before we were born, but they're still fun to talk about.
It's called the internet and history books, Mike.
You are big on people needing to know their history.
Well, history tends to repeat itself. That and also the fact that people are clueless about what happened when they were born, which is pathetic.
Yep. Got to do a better job out there, people.
Got to be better.
This one's interesting. On this day, do you remember this? 1994, Tanya Harding is stripped of her national title. She's banned for life from the U.S. Figure Skating Association because of her role in an attack on Nancy Kerrigan.
Yes.
There's a whole 30 for 30 on this one.
Well,
why?
A couple things. First of all, that was one of the first famous 30 for 30s that kind of launched 30 for 30. That was like one of the first two seasons of 30 for 30.
Yeah.
Second of all, I remember this vividly because it was Oksana Bayul who ended up winning the gold when it should have been one of the Americans because there was so much garbage between Kerrigan and Harding. Neither one of them could focus. And Oksana Bayul ended up going down in Olympic history for 1 year.
So, for those of you who are too young or don't remember this, Nancy Kerrigan was like the favorite.
She was the golden girl. Tanya
Harding was kind of like, had a rough upbringing, but for whatever she did in her past, she was a good figure skater.
Tanya was the better athlete, but Nancy was like the chosen. It was the ironic thing is a similar thing happened years later when it was Tara Lipinski and Michelle Kwan. Michelle Kwan was the golden girl, but Lipinski just came out of nowhere.
Yeah, I can't believe, you think back. So, basically, Tanya Harding has a hitman, her husband, and somebody else, some other goon, hit Nancy Kerrigan's knee with a crowbar.
Yeah, just tried to take the leg out altogether.
Yeah.
In public, by the way. It was people were there. There were cameras and everything. The whole thing.
What a story.
I mean, in some ways, some people might have been proud of this. It was like a mob hit.
Well, it turned into be one of the most famous 30 for 30s of all time.
Yeah, and it's one of the most crazy Olympic scandals of all time.
It really is. I mean, think about how bizarre that whole situation ended up being.
Yeah.
All right, here we go. 1986. Bo Jackson makes his pro baseball debut with the Double-A Memphis Chicks. He played 53 games, a little dyslexia there for me, with Memphis before Kansas City calls him up in September of 1986. Was Bo Jackson a better baseball or football player?
That's a great question. I would actually tend to believe he's a better baseball player because the thing with Bo is that he was a phenomenal athlete who happened to also be really good at football. I felt that his ability to hit, throw, he was a true five-tool player as a baseball player. And if he would have devoted all of his time to baseball, I think he would be good down as maybe one of the 15 greatest players of all time.
Yeah, unfortunately, Bo got hurt in football. He broke his hip.
Right.
And ended up, not being the
He had a couple productive baseball seasons after that, but he was never the same.
No. 1995, Eddie Murray of the Indians becomes the second switch hitter and the 20th player in baseball history to reach 3,000 hits. Murray joins Pete Rose, the career hits leader, with 4,256. Eddie Murray, underrated.
Underrated. And the funny thing was that he was really hanging on at the end to get that 500 too. He was not that great at the end of his career. He was just hanging on just to get to that number. Because he knew that if he got to that number, he'd never be forgotten. Whereas if he didn't get to that number, his career would be forgotten. Because he was a really good hitter for like a 10-year period. But, Father Time catches up with everybody, and he realized, dag nabbit, if I don't get that 500, no one's going to care who I am.
You can't use dag nabbit on my show.
What would
You're not allowed. You can use that on game night or sports bets. Dag nabbit is not allowed.
What would you rather me say?
Anything other than dag nabbit.
Fine. Darn it.
There you go.
Better?
Dag nabbit is banned. Is banned from this show.
Darn it. How about
Darn it. 1998, Cubs right fielder Sammy Sosa hits his 20th home run in the month of June.
Yes.
And the 5-4 loss to Arizona at Wrigley Field. But that was the summer, another 30 for 30. This day, June 30th,
It's
created 30 for 30s.
I remember that summer very vividly because there were so many times that I would go up the street to a friend's house on 42nd Street in Seattle. After we were done playing sports during the day, we would sit around and see, okay, what's Sosa doing on TV today? What's McGuire doing on TV today? That was part of our summer, which was, all right, let's go check in with the games here.
Every night. I was in West Virginia, and I remember that summer, I mean, every night you're watching these games, and then they got near it when they got right down. Now, Sosa hit his 20th in the month on this day. He finished with 66.
Right.
And McGuire had 70 that year, right?
Yes.
And Bonds ended up getting 73.
Mm-hmm.
But I remember the night that McGuire went and beat the single season record.
Right, the Maris, right?
Right. I was in West Virginia at the grocery store somewhere.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah.
You couldn't even watch it.
It was like shopping bag down there. You had a shopping bag, I think.
You didn't actually see it live.
No. Missed it. But, I mean, the summer of 98, you remember, like, when I got home, these two guys going for this record.
And it was must-watch thing.
Yeah, because it was the summer of 98, they were hitting the home run. Then when I got back to school, it was like, mid-August when you go back to college.
Right.
So they weren't there quite yet, but they were, like, getting there.
But you were anticipating.
Oh, yeah, every night you were watching this like crazy, like these two guys going back and forth. It's one of my favorite I wouldn't say it's one of my favorite 30 for 30s. It was, but
it's very good.
Yeah, it was recent.
Yeah, it's not one of my favorites either.
Where Sosa looks like he's got like a pink complexion.
I know. So Sosa's personal life has gone sideways ever since he left baseball.
Yeah, I mean, he didn't want to talk about the thing with Jeremy Schaap, right?
Yeah. He's been very elusive about the topic.
Very much so. He ended that whole interview with Schaap, and then they had to bring him back, remember?
No, they had to bring him back.
A lot of Wimbledon stuff happened on this day as Wimbledon's going on right now.
Yeah, no Serena Williams the rest of the tournament this year.
This happened in 1908. I don't think anybody listening was alive.
I definitely wasn't.
At 41 years old, Cy Young becomes the oldest player to record a third career no-hitter as he no-hits the Highlanders of New York, who later became the Yankees, but he pitched for Boston. Cy Young, 1908, had 3 career no-hitters at that time, 1908. There you go. That's why the award is now named for him. I like you talking about the history. How did the Cy Young Award? Well, he had 3 no-hitters. There you go.
He got the most wins in baseball history.
Okay, if you were changing the name of the award, what would you call it? See, that's another. Remember we talk about names, how perfect the names are?
That's perfect.
Cy Young is just perfect for the best pitcher.
It just sounds
like if you
like
couldn't say, "Oh, you won the Greg Maddux Award." No, the Cy Young. It's so perfect.
It is.
It's like, amazing.
It's like the Heisman Trophy. Like if you called it anything else,
yeah,
it wouldn't be the same.
If it was the, who won a Heisman? If it was the Desmond Howard Trophy.
Yeah, it's just
not the same.
Flat.
It's the fact that it's amazing how these things. Does anybody else get fascinated by that? How the names of all these things just are perfect. They're perfect. Cy Young Award is the perfect name for that award. It couldn't be anything else. It couldn't be.
It can't be the Walter Johnson Award.
Nope.
It couldn't be the Christine Mathewson Award.
Nope.
It can't be the Sandy Koufax Award.
Nope.
It can't be the Roger Clemens Award.
Nope. Pedro Martinez.
Nope.
Greg Maddux.
Nah.
Randy Johnson.
Tom Glavine.
It's got to be. Now, he doesn't deserve to be in the conversation.
He's won a Cy Young or two.
Yeah, but he can't be. His name can't be with those guys.
Okay, fine.
Right? He's not nearly as good as that. By the way, 1962 on this day, Sandy Koufax, speaking of which, no-hit the Mets. 5-0. He had 4 career no-hitters. Now,
that was with the Brooklyn Dodgers.
Koufax, L.A.
That was L.A. at that point?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, Koufax could essentially have the award named after him. He would be that special.
He was special.
The Koufax Award. Maybe the Koufax Award.
It's a solid name, but it's not Cy Young.
But no, Cy Young gets both names in there.
Yeah. Like a lot of these awards also are just the last name. Heisman, Vezina, they're last name awards. You get all of Cy Young's name in
there. It's amazing. every award or like Babe Ruth's name, how fitting is it that its name is Babe Ruth and he's the best? Cy Young. The fact that his name is Cy Young and he's the best, that fascinates me. Like,
part of me that wants to go back and watch Ken Burke's baseball.
You
Binge
can
watch it at night.
Go for it. Just sit there and watch it all night. I don't know. Phillies utility man Cookie Rojas pitches a scoreless ninth in a 12-3 loss to the Giants. He has now played all 9 positions since arriving in Major League Baseball in 1963. So this happened in 1967. He had played every position but pitcher. He pitches the ninth. He's played them all now.
If someone called you Cookie, how would you feel about that?
I feel like it wouldn't be the award that anybody would win.
Cookie Gill.
Might fit.
If you say so.
It's not terrible.
Well, it's better than
I wouldn't
Pookie.
want that name.
It's better than Pookie.
Yeah, like the character from New Jack City.
Yeah.
Pookie. 1982, the Jersey NHL franchise is officially named the Devils by a fan ballot. Legend of the Jersey Devil, a creature that allegedly is in the Pine Barrens of South Jersey. It's odd that they gave the name something from a South Jersey origination to a team that was essentially a North Jersey team.
Yeah. That's such a New Jersey thing to do, though.
Now they're in Newark.
Yeah, they steal from the South, they give it to the North, you know. That's how the state goes.
This day, 1993. This makes you feel old. Chris Webber was the first pick by the Orlando Magic. He got traded to Golden State.
Yes. For Penny Hardaway.
1993. My God. 1994, the pre-trial hearings for O.J. Simpson. Oddly, the same day that Bill Cosby just got let go out of jail.
That is some serious irony.
Yep.
Two very famous people from the 80s and earlier. And, yeah, legal issues.
1999, Elton Brand is the first pick by the Chicago Bulls. Yes, the Elton Brand, who is now the general manager of the Philadelphia 76ers, although I don't know what he really does. That's great to have that job and then really have no responsibility.
I almost wonder if, like, what he actually does is actually more important than we realize, but no one's actually talked to us about
Possible. Relationship builder. That's big in the NBA now. By the way, did you hear the story today? On this day, Scott O'Neal resigned as the CEO of the Sixers.
I did see that this morning, and it's ironic because that's the current book I'm going through on Audible.
The Scott O'Neal book?
The new book he came out with.
Oh, that's right. He was doing a bunch of interviews for that. Also on this day, 2019, the Brooklyn Nets signed Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving on the same day. Happened on this day, June 30th, 2019.
And they still haven't finished a year together, healthy.
I don't know that team will win a championship together, to be honest with you.
Can they stay healthy? I mean, that's the ridiculous part. Like, I've never seen a scenario, because the first year they were together, Kyrie couldn't stay healthy. Durant was coming off the injury. Then the next year, all three of them take turns getting injured, and Durant plays out of his mind.
Yeah.
Out of his darn mind in the postseason, and they still lost.
So a couple birthdays today.
I like birthdays.
Tony Fernandez.
Blue Jays.
1962. He played for the Blue Jays. And 6 other teams, by the way.
The Braves, too, I believe.
He was awesome. Gold Glove 4-time, 5-time All-Star.
Switch hitter.
Mitch Richmond.
That would be the Warriors and the Kings and the Lakers.
Also was an Olympic gold medalist.
I think it was the Wizards, too, at one point, wasn't he?
I don't remember the Lakers. I do remember the Wizards.
Lakers at the end. They talked about it in Jeff Pearlman's book about how they tried to bring him in.
He might have been one of those guys.
They tried to bring him in at the end, and it just was like didn't go very well.
So Mitch Richmond was part of the Mitch Richmond, Tim Hardaway, Chris Mullin.
TMC.
Yes. Run TMC. Now, Hardaway went to win a championship with the Heat. Mullin became the front office guy with Sacramento and then was the head coach for the St. John's Red Storm. Is he still the head coach? No, he's not the head coach anymore.
I don't think he's the head coach anymore.
No.
I double-check that.
But Mitch Richmond just kind of faded away.
Yeah. He was a phenomenal shooter for a while.
He was really good. Mike Tyson's birthday is today. 55 years old. He was born in 1966, which makes he was the youngest ever heavyweight champion at 20 years, 4 months, and 22 days. Mike Tyson.
Phenomenal knockout artist.
It's crazy to think
life.
he's 55 years old. It's unfathomable to me that he is now 55 years old. He fought last year, by the way.
He's in great
looked
shape.
Pretty good.
He's in great physical condition. You gotta give the man credit.
I bet you if that was a real fight, he would have beat the living daylight out of Roy Jones Jr.
I would guarantee you that if Mike Tyson fought most of the people who'd be available to fight him right now, he would knock them out.
Michael Phelps' birthday is today as well. 23 gold medals.
Olympian.
Yep. So
pretty good day for birthdays.
Yeah. Oh, that's big day. And events, you got 2 30 for 30s on this day.
Yes, you got that too. Good day. June 30th.
The Cy Young Award is the most perfect name for an award, I think, out there.
And I would say Heisman Trophy is second.
Heisman Trophy, yes. That's a good one. It's either Heisman Trophy or Cy Young Award. That is the most perfect name for the respective awards, I think. I don't know that I can come up with other ones. Like the Stanley Cup, though. Lord Stanley Cup.
That's a really good one.
I mean, if it couldn't be the Gretzky Cup. It couldn't be the Lemieux Cup.
Couldn't be the Gordie Howe Cup.
No, it's Lord Stanley Cup.
The fact that he's got the Lord in front of it, too, makes it even more pizzazz.
It's unbelievable that that's the name of the trophy. Like, they found this guy, Lord Stanley, and I mean...
They found this guy. The way you said it was...
Well, it's like how it became, like, that whole... I mean, it's unbelievable. Like, these things blow my mind.
That's 3 really good names, too. Yeah. Oh, one more. Lombardi Trophy.
The Lombardi Trophy. You're right. Couldn't be any. Can't be the Belichick Trophy.
No.
The Andy Reid Trophy.
The Bill Walsh Trophy.
The Tom Brady Award. The MVP, right? All right. I have a question that I need your answers to, because I want to see where my answers match up with your answers. Plus, I got a lot of texts. And if you could think of an award that needs a new name, like we can't replace the Cy Young Award or any of the awards we just mentioned. 609-403-0973. right, 449. Somebody texted in that the MVP needs to be changed to LTT. Let's take turns. That's pretty funny. What is the MVP award, though? What is the name of, like, the respective? They have a name attached to it, don't they? Like, the NBA MVP award is named after somebody, isn't it? The NBA championship trophy is not a perfect name. The Larry O'Brien trophy could be something better. It could be like the Bill Russell. It should be that's the finals MVP. But the Larry O'Brien trophy for the team that wins the title, they probably could come up with something different than that. Yeah, Larry O'Brien is not like a recognizable figure in NBA history.
Also, Larry O'Brien, if you actually go back in history, he was actually kind of a lousy commissioner. He didn't even want to be commissioner. He got out as soon as he could because he was way more interested in politics than he was in sports. He only took the job because they needed somebody who could actually negotiate contracts with the TV network.
They could make it like the David Stern Award, maybe.
That'd be much better.
Yeah, that would, like, the Larry O'Brien trophy is not a perfect.
David Stern saved the NBA business-wise. Larry O'Brien almost destroyed it.
Yeah, that is definitely not the best name for a, like, it's not synonymous.
Like the All-Star Game Award is now as the Kobe Bryant All-Star Game MVP Award.
Now, what about the Commissioner's Trophy for baseball? If you can give it a new name, which is the World Series. The Commissioner's Trophy is the trophy presented to the team that wins the World Series. So it doesn't really have a name. So what would be synonymous? Like, whose name should go on that trophy? Because baseball's got these perfect award names. Cy Young Award.
The Derek Jeter Award.
Wow, for the World Series.
He won a bunch of them.
Yeah, the problem is it would have to be a Yankees player. They've won almost every one, you feel like.
I mean, unless you want to go Casey Stengel and go the manager from years ago.
Yeah, probably not. I mean, the Commissioner's Trophy is bland enough, right?
It's pretty appropriate, too, for their ego.
Yeah, I definitely think the Larry O'Brien Trophy could be renamed.
That should be the David Stern Trophy.
Oh, I could go down that road, yeah. And if I'm giving it to a player, the Michael Jordan Trophy.
For the MVP?
The Jordan Trophy. No. For the finals, like the Larry O'Brien.
The finals
trophy.
MVP is
no.
Bill Russell.
I'm not talking about the MVP. I'm talking about the Larry O'Brien trophy.
Oh, you mean the name of the actual like NBA finals trophy?
Basketball.
Gotcha.
Yeah, the NBA finals trophy is the weakest of them all.
Yeah.
It's the least, like, iconic.
Yeah, the Stanley Cup's the most iconic. The Lombardi Trophy is the second most. The Commissioner's Trophy and the NBA Finals Trophy are kind of like in a heated race for third.
Yeah, so if I was renaming the Larry O'Brien Trophy for the team that wins that award, I mean, Bill Russell already has the MVP award.
Right.
I would probably switch it, though, and give Bill Russell the Larry O'Brien Trophy.
Okay.
And Michael Jordan the MVP.
Interesting. Okay.
I mean, Bill Russell won how many championships?
9.
So more than Michael did.
Yeah.
Yeah. And how many times in the 9 was he the MVP of those series?
I'd have to go back and double check that, but I don't think he was the finals MVP each time.
He was an 11-time NBA champion, by the way.
What 2 did I miss then? Oh, are you including his coaching?
Nope. As a player, he was a 2-time NBA champion as a coach. He was an 11-time as a player.
I'm totally missing.
Now, finals MVP. I don't know that they even gave it out.
I know the one year Jerry West won when his team lost.
I'm not sure that it doesn't list him as ever winning a finals MVP.
Really?
Mm-hmm. So he has an award named after him
that
on something that he never did. And unless this is, I list everything that he's done. 11-time NBA champion, 5-time NBA most valuable player, 12-time All-Star, NBA All-Star Game MVP, 3-time NBA first team, 8-time NBA second team, NBA All-Defensive first team, 4-time NBA rebounding champion, 25th anniversary, 35th anniversary, 50th anniversary. I would imagine if he won a finals MVP, it would be listed there, no?
You would assume.
Right. So you're telling me that Bill Russell never won a NBA finals award.
Seems kind of fraudulent.
Yeah, I got to look that up.
I'm with you. I think the Jordan Finals Most Valuable Player is probably the best bet. And then the regular season, you could call like the Kareem Most Valuable Player Award.
Is there a name for that award?
I don't think so right now. But I would give it to Kareem and get it over.
Yeah,
with.
the Bill Russell NBA Finals Most Valuable Player Award, formerly known as the NBA Finals Most Valuable Player. The award was given his name and has been given since the 1969 Finals. Now, since the award has been 31 players have been it, Jordan 6 times, he is the record holder.
So he should have his name on it.
Therefore, his name should be the one.
And get rid of Larry O'Brien and put Bill Russell on that trophy.
And Bill Russell should take over the name as the Larry O'Brien winner. That's what they should do.
That would make more sense.
All right, Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN. Jeff Kerr, a little NFL conversation at 5:25.
South Jersey's play-by-play home for the Eagles,
Touchdown!
Sixers,
Oh, yeah!
and Flyers.
He scored!
97.3 ESPN, WENJ, WENJ HD Millville, Atlantic City, a Town Square media station. This is the Sports Bash with Mike Gill on 97.3 ESPN. Now, live inside the Matt Black Kia Studios, here's Mike Gill.
All right, final hour of the show. I can't believe it's gone by this fast. I'm Mike Hill. Taking it until 6. Game night tonight. Dave Weinberg on a Weinberg Wednesday. Yes, indeed. I think I got a lot of texts on the Ben Simmons trade ideas. They weren't my ideas, so don't shoot the messenger, okay? Check them out on our website, 973ESPN.com. I will get into those in just a little bit as well. If you're watching the show live, Facebook, YouTube, or Twitter, let us know. Subscribe to the YouTube channel to get the Sports Bash live video. Got a lot going on this week for only one live local sports team in action, the Phillies, who are great conversation with Kevin Cooney earlier. If you missed it, check out our YouTube channel for all our interviews after the game. We asked you before the break, of all of the trophies, we're looking for new names for trophies because the Cy Young Award winner, that is like the perfect name for a trophy. So if you have those, throw them our way, let us know. By the way, the Bucks have listed Giannis Antetokounmpo doubtful for Game 5 against the Hawks. He has no structural damage. He is doubtful for the game. He has a left knee hyperextension. I would imagine he's a similar situation to like where, Joel Embiid might have been, where he might be 2 to 3 weeks. Giannis might miss a couple of games, and maybe he'll be ready if they make the finals. I don't think you'll see him the rest of the way here in these Eastern Conference playoffs. I mean, even Joel Embiid needed to sit 2 to 3 weeks, I think, however long it was, before he was ready to get back. So I think you're going to see the Atlanta Hawks go to the finals. I mean, literally. Now, here's the problem. Their guy's out. Trae Young. You have two teams that are broken down, falling apart, the war of attrition, and this was talked about a little today. Should they have asterisks next to it? You don't put asterisks next to anything. The season was played. They awarded a champion. Just because you don't like the champion, just because you don't like who it ended up being, doesn't mean you put an asterisk next to it. That's what happened. The season played out. These were the people who was left. These were the teams that were left. You might not like it. Oh, LeBron's not in the finals. Boo-hoo. He was in the playoffs. They lost. Part of what makes a champion great is that they're the ones that's left standing at the end. No matter what happened for them to get there, they're the ones. Now, I can understand by saying, look, last year in the bubble, it was an unconventional champion. Like, do the Heat make it to the Eastern Conference? Do they win the Eastern Conference if the field is playing games in a normal setting? I would say no. But they were the team that adapted to the surroundings. These were the surroundings. They adapted to it. And there you go. They didn't win the title, but they made the Eastern Conference Finals, which I don't think would have happened otherwise. But that doesn't mean you put an asterisk up next to it. I mean, that's ridiculous. Now, that being said, I look at this year as, man, you're going to get a champion that will be the team that we talk about, like the Pistons team that won that championship. How long ago was that? Probably 13 years ago now, 2005, where, give me a team that can win a title because of this. So, blah, blah, blah. Oh, well, the Hawks did it. They're going to be the Pistons. That's going to be the team that you're like, well, they didn't have. If the Hawks end up winning, well, you don't need 2-3 superstars to win. The Hawks did it. Okay, they will be the exception, not the rule. But as Brian Windhorst said, they shouldn't have to apologize for getting there.
When you win a championship, it means never saying you're sorry. It is so hard to win. And I know it's not hard like inventing a cancer drug or, digging the Panama Canal. I understand this perspective. We're talking about sports. But in terms of the accomplishments in the game, it is the toughest thing you can possibly do. And so if you're able to hold that trophy at the end, no matter what you had to do to get it, you are champion, and you should never say sorry to anybody for it.
Even if you should name the trophy something different. But you're right. He's right. You shouldn't have to apologize because everybody else broke down and fell apart. Part of it is the war of attrition. But again, I do believe that they will be looked back at as like this whole COVID era of champions is going to be, you're not going to be able to say like, when you look back in NBA history, well, you needed an MVP level player. You needed to have a superstar on your team. And though this year you might say, well, a superstar didn't win it. They're going to be the Detroit Pistons. There will always be that Pistons team. We don't put an asterisk up next to them, but we always say they're the only one that ever won without really a big-time superstar. But that doesn't mean that the accomplishment should be any less. Greeny said this today, and I agree.
I love the expanded playoffs of baseball. I think that's all great. And I think it has added more relevancy to the regular season, which is always the object. But it is impossible to ignore that the things that make a baseball team great over the marathon of a season become much less meaningful at the end. Like baseball is not a sport. The structure of the sport, the way it is built, it is not meant to be decided in 4 days. It's not a sport where the best team is supposed to prove itself over the course of the long marathon. And so frequently you do not get the best team winning in baseball. And it just is what it is. It's a byproduct of the system. But again, that's a long-winded way of my saying I am just really, really sad to see what has become of this NBA postseason, because there just isn't any way that the storyline, when it all comes to an end, is not going to be all the players who didn't get a chance to play.
He's absolutely right. In the end, like I always watch these games and I'm like, I just can't picture a season where you're like, yeah, the Hawks won the championship. It just feels like that was a waste. Like I say a waste, but it's like, no one picked the Hawks to win a title. You look at a situation where you're like, oh, the Bucks won. Like you thought the Bucks could win this at the beginning. They were one of the teams. But if they win it in this fashion, you are going to say, well, they didn't beat LeBron. They didn't beat Curry. They didn't beat they did beat the Brooklyn Nets, but they didn't beat the full Brooklyn Nets. Like you will always look back on it and kind of diminish how it was accomplished. It's almost like akin to, well, the Phillies won a World Series, but they beat the Rays. Right? You beat the Rays, so the World Series isn't as memorable. Probably, I remember in 2009, and I talked about why beating the Yankees was so important for the Phillies. Why? Because the 2008 Phillies won a World Series, and they're not a memorable they're not a memorable World Series champion in baseball lore, right? They're not like, oh, well, the Cincinnati Reds who beat the Oakland A's in 1989, or the Subway Series winning, one of those by the Yankees beating the Mets, or when, the A's played the Giants in the earthquake. I think that was 90, 89, when the Cincinnati Reds, I brought that up, when they upset the A's, when the Toronto Blue Jays, they won back-to-back titles. They beat the Phillies and the Braves. Like, you remember certain things, like teams, because of these accomplishments and what happened. Like the Reds with Eric Davis winning the World Series is because they were such an underdog, right? Nobody thought the Cincinnati Reds were going to beat this Oakland A's team. So the Phillies win in 2008 really isn't like a memorable baseball story. They beat the Rays. Whoop-de-doo. But if you would have beat the Yankees the next year, now all of a sudden your franchise becomes the team that won back-to-back World Series. Like we remember, the Blue Jays don't have a lot of success in their history, but they won back-to-back World Series titles. You'll always remember that. The Phillies are the worst franchise in professional sports. But if they won back-to-back titles with the second one beating the New York Yankees, that era of Phillies baseball would have gone down as one of the best franchise eras of all time. That you had a run of teams that won back-to-back World Series over a 5-year span, one of which was beating the Yankees. Always will be memorable. Whoever wins this title will be memorable because of how unmemorable they actually are. The irony of that. Like the Detroit Pistons are not a memorable team other than the fact that they're memorable because they didn't have a star. So winning a title in that fashion, it really shows how hard it is. Right? 609-403-0973. 609-403-0973. All right, I wanted to ask this question yesterday. I saw Elle Duncan tweet this out from SportsCenter. She is the SportsCenter anchor who works with Kevin Nagandi, right? She asked this question, and I want you guys to text in your answers because I want to see how many people out there have matches with me. Okay, so I need your help on this. 609-403-0973. And she asked this. What are 5 movies that you are confident that you've seen at least 10 times? All right? 5 movies that you are confident. Josh is writing his down because I was going to ask, give me Josh's 5 movies. And if any of them match mine, I am in trouble.
I watch more movies than
you. You do watch more movies than me, which means, all right, so the question was, give me 5 movies, right? 5 movies that you are confident that you have seen at least 10 times, okay? 609-403-0973. All right, I gave my answers. Should I will hold off on my answers here because I want to see people's text messages and see what kind of movies. Now, you don't have to give me all 5 if you're like thinking, if you can't text 5, but give me any movies that you are confident you have seen at least 10 times. All right? And I was thinking about this, and I said, oh, this is easy. And then I was like, 10 times? I do have 5 movies, though, that I have seen at least 10 times, okay? So 609-403-0973. 609-403-0973. Give me 5 movies that you're confident you have seen at least 10 times. Now, hers were Clueless. Yeah, I don't even know that I've ever seen Clueless. Grandma's Boy. I don't think I've ever seen Grandma's Boy either.
Okay, you're not missing anything with Clueless. I'm just letting you know.
Was that Alicia Silverstone?
No, that was another lady from that era, but it became.
Are you sure it wasn't Alicia Silverstone?
It was another blonde girl.
Are you positive on that?
I'll double check, but I thought it was another blonde lady.
Clueless was Alicia Silverstone. I mean, come on. You're telling me not to watch it. You didn't know who was in it, and I know who was in it, and I've never seen it.
Well, then somebody else was on the TV show because the TV show came right after the movie.
Brittany Murphy was also in that movie. All right, Grandma's Boy, I don't even know what that is. And she has seen it 10 times.
I've never seen that.
Friday. I have seen Friday. I have not seen it 10 times. That I know. I may have seen Friday twice. Again, I'm not a big movie watcher. Have you seen Friday?
Yes.
10 times?
No.
Okay. I'm going to Get You Sucker. I have seen I'm Going to Get You Sucker, but definitely not 10 times.
I've seen it, but no, not 10 times.
And her last one was Wizard of Oz, which I guess I probably have seen The Wizard of Oz probably at least 10 times.
I haven't, but I know my dad has.
Okay. All right, so we got a ton of text messages that just came in, okay? So the question is, this is from Elle Duncan of SportsCenter. She asked this, what are 5 movies you're confident you've seen at least 10 times? Now, Rank will be on tomorrow, I think. We will definitely ask him this question because he's a movie watcher, all right? So, Josh, have you come up with 5 movies that you have seen 10 times?
Oh, yeah. This was easy.
Oh, by the way, someone just chimed in, Jeff Bone and Pookie. He said The Sandlot, probably the greatest baseball movie. Now, my buddy, who I've ripped on this show a few times recently for not having cable and then losing the swim race the other day, his friend in high school is Smalls.
Really?
He knew Smalls.
Wow.
Yeah. So I said, what's Smalls doing? He said he got in trouble at the airport. He headbutted a police officer because he was too drunk to get on the airplane.
Okay, then.
So I have seen The Sandlot. You know how many times I've seen it?
Once?
One time.
I think I've seen it at least one time, but definitely no more than twice.
All right. So what are 5 movies that you are confident that you have seen at least 10 times?
All right. Well, the first one that came to mind was obvious. It's Remember the Titans.
I have seen that once.
Love that movie. Awesome.
That's Denzel.
Denzel, yeah.
Okay.
Another Denzel movie I've watched at least 10 times would have to be John Q.
I've never seen John Q.
It's a bit emotional, so if you don't like those kind of movies, stay away.
No, I mean, it doesn't bother me.
Also, Man on Fire.
Never heard of it.
Great movie. It's probably his
You've
best
seen
movie.
Man on Fire, a movie I've never heard of, 10 times?
It might be Denzel's best movie.
Oh, these are all Denzel movies.
That's the first 3 that came to mind.
Oh, jeez.
The Dark Knight.
I've never seen.
Avengers 1, 2, 3, and 4.
I've never seen any of those.
Oscar.
I don't know what that is.
Oscar is a mob comedy about a mobster whose dying father convinces him to become an honest man. And the whole movie's about him is trying to spend one day to do it, and everything goes wrong in his life. The father is Kirk Douglas. It's Sylvester Stallone plays the mobster. Chaz Palminteri's in the movie. The movie's hilarious.
By the way, Kirk Douglas just brought up a nope, not Kirk Douglas. Maybe Kirk Douglas. Is he married to Goldie Hawn?
I think.
Because I think I've seen Wildcats 10 times.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Football. You don't like Wildcats?
I mean, I haven't seen it 10 times, but I know the movie.
Oh,
yes.
it's on all the time. I mean, come on. Anytime that's not anymore.
I've also seen What About
By the way,
Bob
I believe a record number of text messages have just come in.
Would you like to read some of them?
I mean, we get 50 on a page at a time. The page is flipped already. I mean, the page that holds 50 has now flipped twice. So that would tell you that over 150 people have texted in on this question.
Are you scared or excited?
I'm excited. I'm excited because I want to see movies that people have seen at least 10 times.
Well,
you want to hear my 5?
I want to. Let's hear your 5. And then we'll go to the texts.
Okay.
Because I'm curious.
Well, I mean, mine are like ones that are on TV all the time. Shawshank Redemption. I don't know that I've seen it 10 times. I think I've seen it 500 times.
Okay.
Anytime it's on, I have seen that movie.
It's a solid poll. Good job.
I mean, it's not like crazy. It's just, yeah.
No, but I mean, your
everybody in the listening audience has seen that movie 10 times. If every text I read doesn't say Shawshank Redemption, you're lying.
I mean, maybe they haven't. I mean, I'm not going to tell them I'm lying, but sure.
You're lying then. 2, I have definitely and confidently say I have seen Jaws at least 10 times.
You would.
It's my favorite movie of all time.
That's why I'm saying it.
Actually, it's probably number 1 or 2. Number 2, I am confident that I have seen Back to the Future at least 10 times.
1, 2, or 3?
1.
Okay.
But 2, probably 2. I've only seen 3 a handful of times.
A little disenfranchised with it?
Yeah, I mean, it's okay. It's not on TV as much, and when it is, it's usually the third of them.
So what we're finding out is this is very stipulative about what's actually on TV frequently.
No, I don't pop in the CD or DVD or VHS and pop movies on. I don't go to Netflix to watch movies or sit on the couch and do that very often.
Okay. Now we're learning about Mike Gill's watching habits.
Rocky 1, I have seen at least 10 times. All of the Rocky movies, I have seen at least 10 times.
I can't say I've seen them 10 times, but I've definitely seen all of them.
Up to 4, put it that way.
I've seen them all at least
up
a few
to
times.
4, I have at least seen at least 10 times.
Okay.
Anything after 4, maybe not. And Ferris Bueller's Day Off, which I watched just the other day, again, I have seen at least 10 times. In fact, Ferris Bueller's Day Off is the first movie that I ever rented on VHS.
Wow.
Yeah. I remember vividly, my dad takes me to the store. I buy a VHS. Might have been Betamax. I don't remember. But VHS movie, Ferris Bueller's Day Off, that was my pick. And at that point, I have now seen that movie confidently at least 10 times.
There you go.
Okay. 609-403-0973. 609-403-0973. I'll read off a couple text messages, okay? This guy says, not many. The only one I know for sure is The Lion King, because I had a phrase when I was 7. I watched it every day for over a month on VHS. Shawshank Redemption is also one of my favorite movies of all time, top 3 at worst, but I've still only seen it once. All right. How have you seen that movie only one time?
If that's one of your favorite movies, you can't have only seen it once. That's like a disqualifier.
Yeah, I don't get that. All right. This guy says, I'm John. I thought that was the name of the movie. I'm like, I never heard that. I'm assuming
there is a movie called I Am John.
Oh, maybe it is. But I thought maybe his name was John. But he gave me 6 movies. If one is named I'm John, 6 would be odd. We asked for 5. So I'm imagining his name is John. All the Rocky movies, he says, Spy Game, Shooter, Saving Private Ryan, and Jaws. So of those, Spy Game I've never heard of, Shooter I've never heard of, Saving Private Ryan I've never seen.
Saving Private Ryan is really good. By the way, there is a movie called I Am John.
Okay. Pulp Fiction, I've seen once. Big Lebowski, I've seen once. Jaws is in mine. National Lampoons, I probably have seen more than 10 times. I think I can confidently say I've seen it more than 10 times. Christmas Vacation, I can confidently say I've probably seen it more than 10 times. Caddyshack, I've definitively seen more than 10 times.
You would see the Caddyshack that many times.
Clash of the Titans. Is that Remember the Titans?
No, Clash of the Titans. See, I that's a sequel to a Greek mythology movie.
Hold on. My guy, Paul, who helped me with my allergies, and by the way, I haven't had any issues with my allergies in 6 weeks now.
Yeah.
He said he's never seen Shawshank. I now can't talk to him any longer. He's no longer my friend. Paul, you're a great man. You helped me with my allergies. I can't talk to you any longer after not seeing Shawshank Redemption. Something is odd.
By the way, Clash of the Titans is a very good movie. I enjoyed it.
Okay.
Not like an all-time.
Now, I have so many text messages here that I don't have enough time in today's show that we're going to have to carry this over to tomorrow.
That's fine.
Now, it was meant for yesterday, which I knew I didn't have enough time left. And now, I don't have enough time today.
By the way, some of the comments on the stream as well are some great answers, too.
Oh.
I've seen some of the stream.
Wow. I didn't realize there was that many people on the stream that were contributing, but I appreciate that. There's even people tweeting at Mike Gill Show.
Wow.
Now, this gentleman who I have an interesting I don't like people who don't have real names on Twitter. I feel like those people are shady, okay? But, and this guy is...
Do they rank up there with the people who don't play fantasy football?
Somewhere around there. I mean, if you can't, tell us who you really are, I can't trust your but I appreciate anybody, you could troll me all you want, care less. I appreciate you knowing who I am, and I have no idea who you are. I feel that's an odd thing. You know exactly who I am. You know my name, and you can't say, hi, my name is so-and-so. This is my real name.
Hi, my name is John.
I don't like you, or I do like you. But this gentleman says, I've never seen Shawshank. I swear on my life. Is it good? What kind of question is that?
That's a horrible question.
Is it good?
It's arguably one of the 20 most famous movies of all time. Okay.
It's first off, it was not a box office blitz. It's only on because it's maybe not good. It's maybe the greatest movie ever.
I think it literally was in like that list of like 20 greatest movies of all time by IMDb.
Yeah.
It was that. It was like 10 Commandments.
And that kind of question is why, like, you don't have a name. I can't take that serious.
You can't take that person seriously.
You're out.
It's a no-no.
All right. Sports Bash is live on 97.3 ESPN. So we're going to pick this up tomorrow. I have all these text messages, so I promise I will read these text messages tomorrow. I didn't realize we were going to get over 200 text messages in 10 minutes. So thank you for that, everybody on the video. But I promise you we will bring this back up tomorrow because I am highly interested in your answers, okay? All right, when we come back, is Zach Ertz on the move? And Carson Wentz speaks today. Next. All right, we'll pick up your answers on that list on tomorrow's show. If you have more, keep them coming. 609-403-0973. 609-403-0973. I'm Mike Gill. This is the Sports Bash. Jeff Kerr, CBS Sports, covers the NFL, is back. There's some NFL stuff going on today. I know Carson Wentz is talking out in Indianapolis. The Eagles' voice, Merrill Reese, was talking today, and he thinks he knows something that all of us have been waiting for a while. I know, Jeff, I think you got a chance to catch up with Mike Ditka. So we got a lot to dive into today. What's going on, man?
Yeah, Mike, the Mike Ditka interview was pretty interesting, to say the least. I know Bears fans are kind of, I want to say, divided on what Ditka says at this point because he's 81 years old, but he had a lot of good tidbits. And, I think he really liked how I dove into early in his coaching career when he was a really good wide receivers coach for a number of years.
Yeah, so you talked to Ditka, I guess, concerning the quarterback position out there and what he thinks they should do at that spot. I think Bears fans are probably united on this one.
Oh, yeah, and it's funny, like, they agree with the answer, but they don't agree with who said the answer. And they're like, well, look, he waited on Jim McMahon and Aaron Rodgers waited and Patrick Mahomes waited. Well, they were in different situations. The Packers had Brett Favre. The Chiefs had Alex Smith. Who do the Bears have? Andy Dalton? Are you really going to start Andy Dalton over Justin Fields? Mike Dick is absolutely right. You play this guy week one. That's why you drafted him.
Obviously, and by the way, Ditka. Now, I thought that Ditka is like a cult figure out there. Like, isn't he beloved by everybody? He won the Super Bowl.
Yeah, he is, but I guess he said some. I don't really know like all the details, but I guess he said some kind of senile things over the years in regards to football. And, I mean, look, the guy's 81. He's no spring chicken anymore. And he thinks old time football. Like, I got an answer from him about, the Bears defense. Well, you got to install the fear of God in the defense. And I'm like, all right, Mike, I get it. I get it. But I mean, overall, it was a great interview, had a lot of good answers. He actually didn't want to get into his time with the Eagles too much. He said, that's just a time in his life that, pretty much, I'm paraphrasing myself here or him, but, he said he kind of likes to forget that time. He said nothing to do with the fans, but he was there when the fans threw snowballs at Santa Claus. He said it was just a bad time there. They were really bad. He couldn't wait to get out, but he said, and nothing to do with the fan base. He said he loved the Eagles fans when he was in Philadelphia.
Speaking of Eagles fans, they couldn't wait for Carson Wentz to get out of town. And with that, Carson Wentz is speaking today, and he has a lot to say. He talked about his new passion for the game all of a sudden.
Yeah, new passion for the game. I guess Philadelphia took the passion out of football for Carson Wentz. And look, I mean, that 10-minute interview with Beth Fool today was something from Valley News Live. She's had a couple of interviews with Carson Wentz over the years, but I mean, this one was really good. Wentz opened up on pretty much his time in Indianapolis so far. And, he didn't really go too in depth of what happened last year, but you could tell like a lot of things were bothering him. And he seemed to blame it on COVID a lot, which I really can't blame him in that regard. Carson Wentz always reminded me of a guy who wanted to get involved with his younger teammates, with Jalen Reagor and those guys, and he really didn't have that opportunity. He didn't try to bend the rules like Tom Brady did. I think he took COVID very seriously, and honestly, I think Carson Wentz, is a practice player. I think he needed those reps. He needed to get into game shape, in April and May, and he just couldn't do it, Mike. And it's unfortunate for Carson Wentz that this happened, but, I think he blames COVID a little too much. Like, I agree with what he's saying, but at the end of the day, too, the Jalen Hurts thing really rocked him to his core. And now he's got this newfound love for football. I guess so. He got traded to where he wanted to go.
Well, obviously, people, the media out there isn't really going to kind of press him on a lot of stuff, too. It's a little different spot being out in Indianapolis than in Philadelphia, because if he had a chance to talk to the Philadelphia media, I think it would be a much different type of conversation, don't you?
Oh God, Mike, you mentioned like you and me got to grill Carson Wentz for 5 minutes on what happened with the Eagles. He'd walk out of the interview in 30 seconds.
He would probably be a little flustered on that. All right, Jeff Kerr, CBS Sports. All right, so interestingly enough, we have talked so much about Zach Ertz and what his future might be. We all assume he's going to be traded. Well, today, the voice of the Eagles, Merrill Reese, essentially said, yeah, he's going to get traded, and I know where he's going. It's Buffalo. So how much stock do you put into Merrill Reese and what he said?
Well, Merrill Reese also said, I don't have any inside information, but here's some inside information. You know what? I don't know, honestly, with Merrill Reese. Like, he's Eagles play-by-play guy, but he works, but he has connections in that organization, so he has to know something, right?
That's always a tough one. I always wonder how much the people that work for the team, how much information do they really have? And you wonder, like, who are these sources? How does things get out? So, like when you're talking to anybody, Tom McGinnis, Mark Zumoff, when he just retired, Tom McCarthy, any of these guys, how much information are they privy to? I don't have any. I have no idea.
It's the same thing, Mike. I got information on an NFL team, but I can't actually say anything, right? It's not nothing like roster or anything like that. It's, something different. But it's the same thing. Like, how much do they know and how much are they leaking out? And that's pretty much what I just did. Oh, look, there's something going on with an NFL franchise. It's uniform related, believe it or not. I can't say who, but, it's one of those things where, how much are you going to give away? And that's really the basis of it.
Yeah. So with that, he says Buffalo. Does that make enough sense to you to think that, okay, he does have information and it sounds right?
Yeah, I mean, Buffalo seems to be the logical destination. They seem to be the team that has been most interested. I know the Arizona Cardinals have I think this is more Arizona driven than anything. They kind of want Zach Ertz because they don't have a tight end. And, every time like the Arizona Cardinals get mentioned Zach Ertz, they kind of seem to blow it up, whether it's Vegas odds or anything like that. But really, Buffalo seems to be the most logical destination at this point. I mean, I wouldn't be let's put it this way. I wouldn't be shocked if Merrill Reese was right.
All right. So by the time you're back on Friday, will Zach Ertz be in Buffalo?
I still think he's an Eagle. But by Friday, I have no idea when this is going to happen. The later it goes, the more I want to see him remain in Philadelphia. I think the Eagles are instantly better with him on the field, as I've talked about before. But man, if the Buffalo Bills are able to get Zach Ertz, can you imagine how dangerous they're going to be? I think Zach Ertz has another good year or two left of football in him.
Yeah, well, I say I agree. Somebody brought up Tony Gonzalez earlier, and he had some of his best years past 30 years old. He went to Atlanta. And still was very successful there. So if I'm Howie Roseman, I'm kind of in a weird spot because I want to clear out the cap space. I understand that, but you're Buffalo, Jeff. You're a Super Bowl contender. You can go with Dawson Knox if you want. Yeah, you could do that, but we think we can help you. You want to give me a 6th-round pick, or do you want to win a Super Bowl? You're going to have to do better than that.
Exactly. And here's the thing. It's not like Dawson Knox is a bad tight end. The Bills think highly of him, but if you can win a Super Bowl this year getting Zach Ertz, and then you can move on from him after this year and say you only give up a 4th, 5th-round pick, you do it, right? I mean, this is what it takes to win a championship. The Atlanta Falcons got instantly better when they got Tony Gonzalez. Ask him how much he helped Matt Ryan in the early stages of his career. The Falcons went from like a 4-win team to a playoff team immediately. Like tight ends, they don't grow on trees, and there were a few. Contrary to what Greg Olson believes, how much tight ends should get paid, he thinks they should get paid more than left tackles. There really is only about 4 or 5 really good tight ends in this game, and Zach Ertz for a number of years was considered one of them.
Yeah, I think Ertz, unfortunately, in a year that he's in his final season, got hurt and had his worst year. It was a terrible, snowball of things that all happened in this final year for him. So I don't know how this all plays out. It's like the Ben Simmons thing. This could go in a whole bunch of different directions. How much value does he have? Obviously not the same value because the last thing you saw of him was not his best.
It's so weird too, like how the perception of these athletes changed. Like last year, the Eagles probably could have got a 2nd-round pick for Zach Ertz just based on how productive he was. And, that's probably the highest point, but still, it's the same way. It's like you said, Mike, same way with Ben Simmons. The Sixers would have traded Ben Simmons in, say, September. They could have gotten the moon for him. They could have gotten James Harden for him. But it's the same way as Zach Ertz. Eagles could have got a high draft pick. Now it's almost like teams are trying to just say, hey, look, here's a 6th-round pick because you're going to cut him anyway. And no, if you're the Eagles, if you can afford to keep him, why not? Let him restore his value. Maybe 8 weeks from now or 8 weeks from the start of the season when the trade deadline hits, maybe you could get that 3rd-round pick for that guy.
Yep, I think I think maybe holding out may have ended up helping them there. Who knows? All right, a couple other things on the NFL with Jeff Kerr here from CBS Sports, who covers the NFL. What are we thinking about Larry Fitzgerald?
I'll tell you what, Mike. I think he should come back, but it's tough because there's going to be room for him on the Cardinals roster. But do you really want to see Larry Fitzgerald only catch 15 passes for 200 yards? Because he's pretty much going to be the fifth option there. You got Christian Kirk, you got DeAndre Hopkins, he ain't getting benched. AJ Green's there. You signed him to, I think it was a $6 million deal. So, look, AJ Green's going to play. Rondale Moore, I imagine he's going to play a significant role in that offense. I love him in Arizona. I love that fit. So, where does Larry Fitzgerald come in? And look, I think Larry Fitzgerald wants to be a Cardinal for his entire career, but Larry Fitzgerald opened himself up in free agency and said, hey, I want to go play here. It could be like an Andre Johnson in Tennessee or Indianapolis type of scenario, or say Art Monk with the Eagles. It could be very interesting to see what teams would take on Larry Fitzgerald, because I still think he has a little bit of good football left in him at 38.
That's all good stuff that you can read at Jeff Kerr, CBS. And then finally, Jalen Hurts has been brought up a lot in terms of lists and where he is. Donovan McNabb, though, mentioned something that I think gets kind of pushed aside a lot, is this guy's been a winner everywhere he goes.
Yeah, he's right. And look, I know Eagles fans don't really like a lot of things Donovan McNabb has to say, but he's absolutely right about Hurts. He wins everywhere he goes. Every level he's been at, he's won. And that is the one thing you want in a quarterback, no matter what his deficiencies are. And look, McNabb pretty much said, look, this guy could have a really good year, but he might not have any talent around him, which could affect his future in the NFL. And, he's right about the Eagles. Can their offensive line hold up? What's the Zach Ertz situation like? Is Miles Sanders truly a top 10 running back? Is Devonta Smith going to be this guy we all think he's going to be? And if all these questions are answered and they're good for the Eagles, Jalen Hurts is going to have a nice year and probably a really good future here in Philadelphia.
At Jeff Kerr, CBS, and of course, he'll be covering the Eagles all season long. The NFL will have plenty of conversations. We are less than a month from Eagles training camp. So many storylines starting to kind of get out there. When we get to camp, we know left tackle. We know we got to figure out the wide receiver depth chart. We've got to see what happens at cornerback. We've got to find out possibly, the defensive end stuff. Do they have enough depth there? So many stories. We're almost there. Stick with us. Jeff Kerr, CBS Sports, here on a Wednesday edition of the Sports Bash. All right, Jeff, man, good to see you.
Hey, Mike, tomorrow is July 1st. We are getting to training camp slowly but surely.
Yeah, the Hall of Fame game just, 4 weeks away?
5 weeks away.
Yeah.
What day is it? It's August 5th or something like that. So maybe 6 weeks away.
Okay, well, we're looking forward to that. And, of course, training camp's July 27th for all the teams, unless the teams are playing in the Hall of Fame game. And the Thursday night teams, right?
Yeah, so it would be Dallas, Tampa, and Pittsburgh are starting early.
Gotcha. All right, Jeff Kerr, CBS Sports. Thanks, man.
Yep, sounds great. Thanks for having me on, Mike.
At Jeff Kerr, CBS, and, of course, follow him there. And you'll be checking out his work at 97.3 ESPN.com during the Eagles season. He'll be there live on the sidelines, at the games, in training camp, and more all season long for 97.3 ESPN.com. I am Mike Gill. When we come back, man, I got so many text messages here. And I don't know if I should read off more of these or wait till tomorrow. By the way, somebody says, Mike, try watching documentaries instead of Shawshank Redemption for the third time. That's all I watch is documentaries. That's one of the reasons why I don't watch any movies, is because I'm always watching documentaries. That's kind of what I do. I always find documentaries. So thank you for that suggestion, but I've done it for a while. Maybe I should start watching more movies so I can be as boneheaded as you are. Oh, I figured it all out now. I really enjoy people who waste all day sitting here listening to somebody who they obviously don't like. Don't you have better things to do with your time? I mean, you're listening and texting in to a sports talk radio text board. I mean, don't you feel a little loserish that you don't like the person that you're listening to, yet you take the time to text them. That is a very odd existence, but I appreciate you for that. I do. I do appreciate you taking the time out of your day to listen to this show and then actually engage. And I need to find a life. I do watch a lot of documentaries, though. I have probably seen way more documentaries than I have movies. I have watched very few movies. That is well documented. I have watched very few movies. But what I have achieved in this world is that guy as a listener, and that is enough for me. So I appreciate you, Lou. All right, bud. Sports Bash Live. We'll wrap it up next. All right, I can dig in, of course. Here we go. It's the sound of the day. 5, we try to get in. We never typically get there. But I do my best.
Hey, you got a million text messages to read tomorrow, so.
There is a lot. I will get to them. I promise tomorrow. We'll have fun tomorrow. What's tomorrow? Thursday?
Tomorrow's Thursday.
Yeah, we'll have Rank on tomorrow. We'll play the game with them, all right? All right, what do we got here? Jason Fitz was on earlier. I enjoyed that conversation. It was fun. I feel like Jason Fitz and I would make a good podcast.
Maybe he could fit it into the other 2 million things he does.
Yeah, right. He said this.
Max player is no longer about max ability on the floor. It's about max importance to remain relevant. And that's what everybody's afraid of is how do you manage irrelevance? And, to that end, we've got a Goldilocks situation. The NFL gives us way too much power to the team and no power for the player. The NBA is the exact opposite with the fact that you're right. I mean, teams have to look at it and say, well, if we don't re-sign him, if we don't give him the max, somebody will. That's a problematic logic because what happens is middle-of-the-road teams give the max to players that don't really deserve what the max was intended for, and all they do is maintain their ability to be middle-of-the-road players.
Fascinating. I talk about this. I think about this a lot. This is a fascinating conversation, this max deal. He mentioned relevancy, and I've been on Twitter with people about this in the past, like the Sixers, and they are more relevant now than ever before. That was the point of the process. They were a forgotten about franchise. People think the process was about winning championships. No, they are worth 7 times more or whatever it is. I mean, from where they started in 2013 to where they are now. The relevancy is what these teams crave.
Right, because relevancy equals dollars.
Right. Fans look at teams as teams. Teams are actually businesses.
Correct.
Relevancy means more to the team than actually being good. Fans don't look at it in that aspect. So when I argue with people about the process and it working, the answer is it worked because they are relevant. The relevancy is what they were after. The championships is the front. That's the front. We need to sell to the fans that this process was about being a championship level team. And never was about being a championship level team. It was about relevancy. And that's why these teams are they have their back to the wall all the time because they have to stay relevant. Otherwise, they become irrelevant and nobody cares about them. So they have to sign. That's why these players get the contracts they do, because teams are so fearful of being irrelevant.
Right, because at the end of the day, they're businesses. At the end of the day, people don't want to admit this, but your favorite team's priority is making money.
I read today about Scott O'Neil, who was stepped down from the Sixers. He's the CEO. I guess he had some ownership stake. He was there for 8 years with the team, the entire process. And he talked about how much money the team is now worth.
Right. He didn't talk about all their wins.
No, he mentioned, and we should talk maybe more about this topic tomorrow, because I think it's a fascinating conversation. Relevancy versus winning. And he talked about it. He actually said this, quoted in, I guess, the press release or something. Can I find it real quick?
It was in the article on ESPN.com.
Yeah. Let's see. I'm trying to see. He did mention, but I mean, most of it was, he did mention about how winning was not like the biggest thing. It was the growth of the organization, right, where they are as a business, essentially. But that's something we could discuss more tomorrow. The balance between relevancy and success on the floor, court, yada, yada, yada. Game night's up next.